What I'll do is I'll let you go ahead and tell us what you want us to know and make your presentation. We've got your tax cards here.
Uh-huh.
And then we can ask some questions, and then at the end of the day today, we deliberate and then make a decision on each case.
Okay.
And then send you a copy in the mail, so.
Yeah, I figured it was worth a shot. I don't know if I got a chance or not.
Well, hey, you never know.
Oh, man. Well, the piece of property I'm talking about is 19A, 113. And you got it assessed at $234,000, and it's just an acre and 1.4 acres.
Right.
Well, pretty much half of that is wetland. I can't get within 100 feet of that. So that leaves me less than half of acreage to build on, and which makes it, what is that, 167,000 an acre? I think that's kind of high. I mean, I thought when it was 180, it was kind of high, but.
Right.
And I got a plat here that shows where the wetlands and stuff run up on it.
Well, yeah, we'll take a look at that, sure.
See, this is the lot that comes down here. Well, I can only build on this little piece up here.
Because that marsh comes all the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And y'all, I figured y'all had that because it was signed on the county.
Do you know when it was subdivided initially? Like, would there be any pre-Bay Act variances?
Back when it was done, my father was still alive, and it was probably down in the 30s or 40s.
Okay. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a break. I'm sure you know, but you can get a little bit of a break on the 100-foot setback. If it was subdivided before the Bay Act, but they also may force you back there too if there's enough space. Yeah, definitely. That marsh area definitely puts a lot of it in the 100-foot.
Yeah, it takes pretty much half
My cable wasn't great.
pretty much half the acreage. But that's pretty much all I've got. I mean, that's just the bare bones of it.
Do you happen to know if that kind of marsh, 'cause one of the things that we'll look at is what are the other properties around you assessed as? Do you know, is that kind of marsh feature kind of typical of that area, or is that sort of unique
It's
to your?
pretty much, well, there's one, my brother's property is right next to it, and he's got a marsh running up on the other side of his, but that's the only two on the Rappahannock I know of.
Right, otherwise
On
it's
that
pretty much
side.
straight shoreline on the
Yeah.
Rappahannock, so yours
Yeah.
should be less than the other ones, but kind
And-
of make sense if they're,
And like I said, it's not like it's deep water to bring your boat in. My brother has to keep his boat over at Conrad's.
gotcha.
There's not much there at all.
No, it's not.
Thank you, that was helpful. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ranson?
Sir.
All right, well, it looks like that land jump was the big kicker, and we gotta figure out why. So, we'll definitely look at it hard this afternoon, and then again, send you a mail, piece of mail in about 2 to 3 weeks' time.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, have a good weekend.
Thank you for my time.
I wonder why they changed it from C-547 to C-500. They just all of a sudden just jumped up from 180 total value to 260,
Huh. Good question.
and then adjusted down 10%. I don't know. One of those curious things that we'd love to
Yeah.
know, but probably will never know. All right. Ms. Mothershead,
Yes,
how are you today?
fine.
Good. Well, welcome this morning. Let me pull up your property here real quick. Let's see, there we go. All right. We've got everything in front of us, so I'll turn it over to you.
All right, What I was concerned about was the improvements had jumped up so high, and there's been no improvements on the home. Mother's had passed away 4 years ago, and then she was in a nursing facility for 4 years before that. So there's been no improvements to the home, and I don't know why it jumped up. I have some pictures
Okay.
of the home.
Wow.
It was, the reassessor brought it down some, but to me, it's still too high.
It looks like the land value stayed the same, but the improvement value
Went way up.
jumped up $60,000.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see.
Why did the factor go to 105 from 90?
We've seen pretty consistently of all the cases brought before us from taxpayers, with the exception of the last individual, the land value really hadn't changed much,
No, no.
but these improvement values have jumped
Yes.
pretty significantly.
Yes.
And thankfully, with you coming before us and providing proof, we would have no clue. Normally, we would just go by the old tax card,
Right.
but
Understand.
but it seems like there's definitely a disparity here. Anybody on the board have any questions?
What's the location of this?
It's right off Whitechapel Road.
It's,
Oh, okay, because I
It's-
see farm, yeah, okay.
Farm is where I live.
Yeah, I assume, yeah, but they don't put it on here. So that's like in Moeller, so,
No, it's off of Courthouse Road. It's like 2 miles going this way from Courthouse Road. Uh-huh.
oh, okay.
In McNeil's Corner. I don't know if you're familiar with McNeil's Corner or...
I heard of it, yeah.
It's before you get to McNeil's Corner.
Gotcha.
Here y'all are.
It has a basement, but it's not finished?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Daddy built the basement years ago when they got moved, here. So, well, they were originally from Lancaster County, but when he got out the service, he came back and built the house. Mhm.
Huh. So that was in, like 1947? Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be a 46 and 47. They were married in 46. Mhm.
Yeah, you got any questions? I think it's
No.
just gonna be a-
Pictures are very helpful. Thank
Yeah,
you for
pictures
bringing
and a
those up.
number, and then we can look at factors and that kind of stuff, so. Ms. Billy, I'm gonna give these pictures back to you. Thank you very much for bringing those. And I think with the information you brought forward today, pretty easy decision for our board to make some adjustments here with the improvement
Okay.
value.
Okay.
At the end of the day today, we've got hearings until 2, but then we go back and deliberate on each individual case. So then we'll notify you in the mail within 2 to 3 weeks' time of the decision, so.
Okay, all right. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Same thing. I want to do this one right now,
Drop it,
Yeah.
take it back to.
Yeah.
right here in front of it. Let's go ahead and tackle this one. Neil, you had factor, went from 90 to 105. And her mother had passed 4 years ago, but previous to that, 4 years, she was living in a nursing home. And y'all saw the pictures, it's in rough shape, yeah.
The factor back, you think?
Factor definitely needs to go to 90.
Factor 90, okay?
They raised the physical from 45 to 52.
They went up
Given that-
15 on factor and only went up 7 on depreciation.
So I don't know if we compare it to, but certainly in 19, I mean, there was parts of the exterior wall missing where you could see, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exposed
That's-
wires and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's getting, I don't know. That's getting, it seems, I mean, we've seen a physical depreciation of 52% on stuff that seems to be in better condition
Right.
than that, so I'm not exactly sure what number to bump it up to, but I think bumping it up somewhere is also appropriate, given the information provided.
Well, if we did 60 or 65 for depreciation, to bring it more in line with the increase of the factor.
Yeah, I mean, either one of those, it's a little bit of a shot in the dark. I can't think of anything. I feel like some of the things that we've seen were, worse when you start getting up to like 70 on the physical depreciation. So maybe 70 seems a little bit high, but I think I don't know, maybe that isn't too high with but yeah, I think 60 or 65 doesn't really,
What do you guys think, 65? Yeah,
Yeah, like,
65?
90 and 65.
Okay.
I think that should help a lot.
All right, Crystal, 1561 from Ms. Mothershead, factor from 105 down to 90. And physical depreciation from 52 to 65. All right, well, let's go back and tackle Mr. Ranson. That was solely the land going from HS 500 to an HS 547.
yeah.
Well, to me, if nothing's changed with the land, and it was an HS 500 before, why can't we just go back to HS 500?
Right.
I mean, unless he's done something with the land that's improved it, or, I don't know.
Right.
But doesn't make sense to me to have it jump up when the past 2 assessments, it's always been consistent.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed, so.
Same
I
thing.
agree.
Are you all okay with that?
Yeah.
Taking it back to the HS 500 at 180?
Yep.
Neil?
Yeah, it's interesting that on his field notes, he didn't change the home site type. Do we need to look at any of the neighboring properties, or just trying to think? I mean, Rappahannock River properties certainly are desirable. So I don't know if we were trying to figure out which ones the assessor looked at, kind of, because it seems like to me this would be something that he looked at specifically just because of that 10% adjustment rate on it. So it seemed like he thought that it was an HS 547 and should have a 10% drop, maybe because of the Marrch area.
I bet he didn't even look at it.
Probably not.
And I bet he didn't look at the plat either.
Yeah, that's the information that we don't know. So that's his That's his brother's. Is that right? Right, because his brother has to keep his boat somewhere, so his brother's been built on.
Yeah, his brother has a house and all that's there.
Okay.
What about the one on the other
That
side of
tells
him,
you.
David? Just,
That's more.
I'd be somewhat curious on that one. I mean, so that one has the land value at 260, but not the 10% reduction. I wonder if that's a change from previous assessments.
We can pull the cards.
He can't enlarge it. He made it small, look like. Oh, okay, you got it. Let's look better. Home site 77.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm curious, was that also an HS 500 last time? Then he's kind of
I don't
reclassified
know.
all the,
All we can do is pull the card and find out.
You want to do it on his and then his brother's, and that way we'll have it on either side?
sure. I could see doing 111, 2. 112 and 114. We can get the old and the new.
A lot of the real estate clips is now attorney-wise.
Everybody.
Jessica Haney is doing a fair amount in Will Hubbard's office.
I met a lady yesterday whose husband had passed, and, is Matt completely out of it now? or-
He's just up counsel.
Okay.
He still does stuff for his older clients and stuff, but
We went to
He had like passed in September, and I
Gatlinburg,
think Matt
Tennessee.
sort of
Okay.
and
guided her in a way she
it's
needed to
black bear
go.
country out there.
He'd probably still
We
open
even
it
saw
up.
some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I said,
One
I
of the
don't know,
little
like, how much
attractions
he's still
down in the
involved
town.
with
yeah.
All that
And
stuff, so, okay.
so I had a belt buckle that somebody had given me before this that had broken. And I was looking for one anyway, and I saw this, and it's kind of plain. I didn't want anything fancy, but I liked
I
it.
don't know how long Matt's been doing it, as long as,
Bear claw. you don't
as
see
long
too
as I've
many
lived
of
here, I think.
No.
30, 40 years,
And
I
I
think.
noticed it, but it's still, I thought it was a cat print.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was working on a house this morning, an FHA loan in Matthews, septic
That's the
system was
lowest family
denied.
ransoms. I see
See,
that name a lot.
I don't know what's gonna, it's out of area real estate agents, so I'm like, whoops, you should have thought about that before.
They do. They own some of the.
I don't
that
know what's
gentleman
gonna
that
happen
was in
there.
here,
Septic system was
on
denied?
Yeah, because,
So
so
does-
we always have to have a copy of the septic permit for our files.
Yeah.
He lives in,
To say that it, you know, follows the guideline, the FHA guidelines. So I asked for a copy, and they sent me back this thing, big old red letters, denied. I'm like,
you gotta turn soil, don't you?
No, no,
Matthews,
not
all
yet.
places.
too early.
I don't deal with
Yeah, we
Matthews too
usually
much, but that
wait
also
till about the 10th.
makes me think, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like with those
Yeah, well,
septic
one thing
files,
ground
there's
temperature
times
gets
where
a
like,
little bit
Yeah.
warmer.
they misplaced,
Yes.
they could have absolutely gotten a permit,
Yeah.
and
We had a
now it could be that the
highway
homeowners
right
and
heavy
the
across this
septic
morning.
installer
Even on
didn't
the
get it
roof
over
of
that
the
final
house.
line
I had a frost.
and
and
do it
I
all right,
didn't
but it
even
could
wood,
absolutely
so-
be that they put it in the office in some point, I don't know how old the house is, but at some
Wait,
point over the
up-
last 20 or 30 years,
What's up
somebody
there?
looked in the file, took the
In
thing
Lancaster
out, put
County,
it into
though?
the scanner.
Yes, ma'am,
And then
down
oops.
off of.
I mean, I've had ones in Lancaster where we
354.
called on it, and
Yeah.
they said there's nothing on file.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that what happened is that other people were calling on
I don't
it, maybe
think I've
other
been
people
but
were going on
so
listing
far.
appointments or
Yeah.
something. And then magically, like 3 months later, it's there,
Right.
because it was sitting out.
Yes, never filed back.
Or they find it in a
They
different file.
did, there
Right.
was a
Oh, what was
place
it?
down there, Captain Tom Seafood was
Yes.
down
Which guy?
there, and then,
So
Went
one,
down further.
11.
I thought that lady that, and her husband died. I thought I went down that road.
that must be.
well, but that's, if you go and take a right, Miss Thomas,
Yeah,
that would have been Lewis and Shirley.
yeah, and he passed.
111 went from an HS 360 at 40,000 to an HS 557 at 280,000.
Nice
Oh
lady.
my,
Sherry's
What?
very nice.
that's crazy. Whoa.
I mean, 40,000
That's,
seems
uh,
low
they're
unless there's
good.
really something.
Good family.
Oh, did I?
There's a whole lot of them.
Mix
Is
it up?
it?
Oh, here's 11, sorry.
So 260,
Thank you.
That's a
but
260.
still,
$40,000,
whoops,
Years ago, my grandfather,
somebody didn't realize there was waterfront, huh?
I think, he lived down Deep
Good
Creek.
Lord.
Deep Creek, place called Deep Creek.
So whatever was done, he changed,
You heard
he
that.
changed all the home site.
He was a boy.
547. Oh, but this,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that one was 500.
And that's his, I could see how that one, because he's got a bigger piece of land at 14. Now there's the bend in the road. I don't know how that affects
Right.
what he's doing.
So this was his brother's. That's crazy.
And then on, yeah, 12, they did the same thing from 180 to 260, so
So his brother's a HS 500, 180,
And then the new one,
right next door.
yeah.
on the new one, it's a HS 500?
No, the new one is,
Oh, 19, that's the
Yeah.
old one.
same for this one, yeah. So it looks like he switched all of them to the 547. But none of them have the adjustment like he's got, the 10%
10%.
adjustment. Hmm.
Does it matter, do we pull? Or, I mean, does he think that makes sense? You think those little lots, I'm trying to, where is Riverview Road? I know it, but that's upper Lancaster.
Just down past the, down Mary Point Road.
Okay,
No, Devil's
No.
Bottom Road. And turn first left crossing primary school.
it's on the Rappahannock, right?
Yep.
You turn on the first left across from the primary school and you get up to the,
Teague Road. River Road.
Oh, River Road, wait.
yeah, it's,
So you take, so, oh, yeah, okay.
that's
Old
out off,
airport, that's up
Yeah.
there.
So you get to 354 and take a right.
Yeah. And then turn on T,
Okay.
comes down River Road.
can you pop it up on Google Maps?
Do we have an address for somebody?
Curiosity. What's his brother's address?
I got it, yeah.
Hey, there's News Doc.
Riverwood, Riverview.
That's where he has to, right? Whew.
Excuse me.
Wow, look at
That's,
that.
that's Andy's parcel right
Yeah,
there.
so that's him right there. Jeez
Right here.
Louise.
Yeah.
I think he's right there where all that,
Junk is right here,
no,
Here.
closer, one more,
here,
over this way where it's like so low.
over here.
Yeah,
So that would be that marsh area going up there.
good gosh. How much acreage does he have in that? 1.4, right? Hmm.
Yeah, his
It's
brother's
hard
right
to
next
tell.
door.
It looks like it could be there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that where David's mouse is, that's that finger of marsh going up.
Yeah.
That's giving him that 100-foot.
Right here.
Right,
So he's got to build back here.
yeah. Hmm. Man.
But none of these other ones we checked have that.
So I think potentially changing the home site isn't the thing to do, because he did change them all, but the question is a 10% adjustment for the Bay Act, limitations sufficient?
Well, who's to say that the home site's correct? I mean, do we now go back and start changing all the home sites back to where they should be?
I mean, you think if you had an acre on the Rappahannock River, you could sell it for 260?
Building back by the road, way up, and up that far?
Well, that's where that's where I think the adjustment, well, I guess we can really think of him as his own piece, right? We'll say the other ones don't really compare because they don't have the encumbrance of the marsh. Right.
I mean, I don't know, we sold those ones by Bill Geyer's house for Kathy on Diamond Creek for like 150.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you'd be able to justify 235 for something way up there. You got to build back by the road.
Right.
I guess that's it. You go back to C500 or put the adjustment higher to get him down to closer where he was previously. 6 of one, half dozen the other.
I would just raise the adjustment. What do you guys think?
It's probably the easiest thing to do.
30% adjustment, would that would take him down another 52,000? That gets him pretty close, right?
Yeah, 30% would get him at 182. So it's a little bit higher than, what if we did 25?
Yeah, I would have to, I don't know, that would be an interesting one. I could see it going beyond our scope, whether or not, I think in order to build and get a septic in there, he'd almost have to get a pre-Bay Act variance where he'd be able to build something that would still limit you in some way. I think he probably has a little bit more space to get a septic and house and everything in beyond just that 100-foot. Then there's that piece of land that the county voted on where they said, no, we're not gonna let you do anything inside the 100-foot. in which case it might be worth way less, but I think doing the 30% adjustment
Okay, everybody good with that?
because of
30%
a
adjustment?
specific situation,
All right.
and then not messing with anybody else's.
19A 113, we're going to take the adjustment from 10% to 30%. Right here. Look at all the duns.
Yay.
Mr. Duggins.
So we don't meet again until the 17th, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Dutton, how you doing?
Morning.
How are you?
Doing great. We are all ready for you, buddy, so I'm gonna turn everything over to you.
All right.
And we've got your tax cards in front of us. So after your presentation, we may have some questions for you, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Burville is an old house. There are only two old brick houses, really old, in the county. One is Verville. It was built in 1725. It will be 300 years old next year. And that's brick. And the other one is Belle Isle, which was built in 1750, a relatively younger house, but they'll be 275 years old next year. So in thinking about equalization, they're the only two that are comparable. I don't know what this index number is in these appraisals, but there was a huge jump in the index numbers which were applied to both houses. The structural element where it says building in Burville is 4464 is what they have down for square feet. Then they have an index number, 140.5. Now, they use that same index number over at Belle Isle, but the prior year, it was 66. in each case. And the prior year before that, it was 61. So well, I start with the issue of there's something very wrong with a jump like that, which is actually 113% on these two old buildings. So we had three appraisals here in front of us, 161, 166, and 140. So, and it made all the difference in terms of the value of the building. So it's very hard to know, for me to say which is right, but I do know that it sounds awfully arbitrary.
Right.
The other thing is the depreciation figure. The depreciation figure for Verville is 30%. The depreciation for Belle Isle was 80%. That, to me, is a major distinction. They were both built about the same time. They're both built of brick. There have been no changes in size of either building.
Right.
Actually, I went in and measured the square footage of Verville. Every room, every closet, every staircase, every bathroom, and it's pretty close, but the actual measurements are somewhat different. And if we were talking about that, I wanted to try to give you the real measurements of the house, which I have. But the big issues are, to me, the depreciation. When it's 300 years old, you would think, and they've only gotten 10% per 100 years.
Right.
There's something wrong with that.
Right.
And I would appreciate if you could get me closer to the comparable one.
Sure.
Now, 80% seems maybe even too high because it is livable.
Right.
And it's just very expensive to live there because when you're fixing something that's very old, and they're both on the historic landmarks and both on the National Register, we have to do things correctly. I view myself as a trustee for the county and keeping this old place standing, and it's very expensive. And so depreciation is an important element, which basically says it's expensive to keep an old place that wants to fall down to keep it standing.
Right.
So I would ask that you reduce the whole thing is 50-some percent, 54% higher than it was the last time, which is, I think it was closer to being right last time than now. And also it's not comparable to the only other comparable in terms of depreciation. So those are my major things. I have all the measurements and so forth, and if I can provide more accurate information. For example, it says that there's 100% basement. Well, that's not right. There's only a basement under 3 large rooms. And then there are a lot of errors I could correct. But if we could deal with the depreciation.
Sure.
and the wholly, I think the wholly, seems to me unjustified jump from 60 to 140 for the basic index.
Right.
And then I leave it to your good judgment to do it and to help to bring this down into something reasonable.
Sure, sure.
And that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Is this your full-time residence?
Yes.
Yeah, what we've seen is that the depreciation number is kind of random. It's not just based on the age. It's got something to do also with the perception of the assessor and sort of the general condition of the house, which I guess makes some sense. You know, a 1972 house that's just been sitting there should be depreciated more than a 1972 house that's been updated. But I wish there was a little bit more guidance on that number for us.
Well, I do try to keep it from falling down, and and that's a major effort, I can assure you. There's no difference in the value of it from point of view of the prior assessment. No, there's no difference in the condition.
Right.
But
So did the depreciation go down from the last?
I think it went from 20% to 30%,
Okay.
but it's not like 80% over in Belle Isle, which is a slightly newer house.
Okay.
I'd venture to guess too, the factor went up.
Yeah, we'll have to pull the.
So we'll have to pull the old tax cards on that and see. That's one thing that's been common is the improvement values have jumped significantly with pretty subjective views on that.
Yes.
So with depreciation and the factor, those are things that we have looked at hard and made adjustments on, because in the purview of the assessor, a lot of times they're going off of the old tax card, sometimes without even visiting the property. So when taxpayers come before us, we dive in deep and say, well, this doesn't really make sense.
Well,
We need to make adjustments here or there to be fair and equitable. And I think you're right. I think Belle Isle is about the only other
It's the only
property of the
other-
age that we can compare with.
that's unfortunately, it's the
Yeah.
only other one. So I think just arbitrariness has to, in terms of the factor, has to be, and he applied them to the same factor to both, but it's arbitrary in either way you look at it.
Right,
It's
right.
arbitrary, from 66 to 140.
Oh, sure.
It can't be that much difference when actually the inflation adjustment would have been about 15%.
Right.
And for the national inflation on the housing was something like 15% during those years.
Right.
And then this is 113%, so
Yeah.
doesn't seem right.
Do y'all have
Any other
Mr.
questions?
Dutton?
Mr. Dutton, we're just gonna, review just the house, not the waterfront parcel, correct?
Yes, just,
Okay.
no, it's only one, it's the old house.
Okay.
That's the only thing I'm questioning.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
And I have never questioned it before because I thought it was reasonable,
Fair and equitable, right.
fair and equitable. But I felt I had to question it this time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And because once it jumps like this, my family, who hopes to live there, will be with this number for many years.
Right. Neil, any more questions from you? Jane, you good? Well, Mr. Dutton, thanks for coming in and presenting this before us. Our last hearing is at 2 o'clock today, so we'll take each case by case individually, pull old records, and then deliberate, and then notify you by mail within 2 to 3 weeks' time, so.
Thank you, Chairman Dew. I appreciate it.
Great to see you. Have a good weekend, Mr. Dutton.
Thank you.
Interesting. It would be cool. I've only been, of course, by the outside.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. 35, 30A. Mr. Lawrence, how you doing?
Good, David, how are you?
Good. Come on up. We're ready for you. We've,
I don't know whether I'm ready for you.
that's all right. Looks like,
More questions about the process than anything.
looks like we're looking at 1, 2, 3 parcels for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. You want to start with 35 130A?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That's our residence, and that's what I really have more question about.
okay.
I happened to be there when the appraiser came and knocked on the door, and I fully expected to let him come in and walk around and check things out to see what's been done or changed or added. He said, no, we don't come in, we just do it on the square footage, which I thought was pretty strange, and maybe there are privacy issues or something that escaped me. But then the appraisal increased on the house itself, like 50% over the last time, which seemed strange to me. And I'm sure you've had, and I've read in the paper, you've had probably many questions and complaints about this, and I guess you've used the word with Eamon a few times, seems arbitrary to me.
Right.
And then compounded with that is, what's the tax rate going to be? And that's not your purview, I don't think. But if you have a 50% increase and the tax rate stays the same, you're going to pay 50% more taxes. And I guess no one knows the answer to that yet because you don't set that tax
Not
rate.
yet, so the Board of Supervisors, I think they're supposed to set that in May, but according to Craig Geezy, with the previous tax assessment, if the revenue numbers were the same as on these new proposals, that would be a new effective rate of 46 cents per 100 of assessed value. So more than likely, can't guarantee anything, of course,
Yeah.
but the rate will come down
Makes sense.
from 63 cents, to 46 was the effective rate, so probably somewhere close to that. And unfortunately, there's no way to soften that blow on the tax notices when they go out to homeowners. All they see is if this new assessment stands.
Right.
And the rate stands, and here's your piece, and a lot of times that's a pretty significant jump, so.
Okay, so my understanding is what you just expressed, that the supervisors will reduce the rate somewhat.
Yes, sir.
And we don't know how much. but-
Right, right.
And theoretically, they should not keep the rate high enough so that the total collected taxes are substantially,
Exactly, and
Higher.
I think there's a state statute to
There
that.
must
It-
be a
It can't
statute
be
that-
more than a certain percentage above the previous. And to be honest, there are folks in this county who are on fixed incomes who really, if the tax rate were to stay the same as the new assessed values, couldn't afford it, so,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, okay.
And I'll tell you this too, what we're seeing is most of the land values really haven't increased that much, but it's been more on the improvement side, where we've seen big jumps.
Yeah,
Depreciation levels not where we think they ought to be. So that's why we have this process, so the taxpayers can say, we've tried with the assessor, we weren't happy with the results, now we want this board to make a decision on it, so.
okay, I mean,
You've come to the right spot.
yeah, no, I mean, I'll just wait and see what happens. I'm not like Eamon. I only live in a house that was built in 1820. But it's mostly new anyway. But it seems to me that the process is got to be considered to be arbitrary when, if you hire someone to appraise your property, they come inside
They measure.
and they look and see
Yes.
if you've done a lot to change it in the last 5 or 10 years. And
Yes, sir.
I just don't understand how you can have the process without a real inspection and an ability to compare now to then.
Right.
So I guess I'll,
Well, what
my
we're doing-
relief will come from reducing the tax rate from 63 cents to something.
You're right.
And I agree that, you know, there should be an inflation factor, obviously,
Right.
so we'll see. So
Yeah.
I'm not asking for any relief except to try and get a little better understanding of how this arises.
Well,
And-
it looks like for this, at least this parcel, your house, your land value stayed the same,
Yep,
but your improvement value went up almost $50,000.
well,
There's a 41% change.
yeah. I don't know what it amounts to in terms of, I mean, it was 1,197,000 before, and now it's 1,000,007. So that's, and all the increase is in the house. And the,
And you haven't done anything since 2019 to
nothing.
add on, to
Nope.
renovate?
No, and we have a lot of buildings, but they've all been there more than 5 years. I don't
The
know.
outbuildings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're on a separate card, yeah.
So I was just struck because we've lived here for 25, we're on the property for 25 years, and a couple of times it even went down in the early 2000s, mid-2000s. And so this struck me as an unusual jump, which I'm sure you've heard that before from many people who've come to these.
Yes, sir.
things, but-
And I'd say most of us have been on this board, it's our third term now, so over the past 2 general reassessments, and we've seen some changes, but this one particularly more with improvement values, and it's kind of just all over the place. You know, some up here, some down here, but that's where we've been tasked to really make adjustments more on that improvement part than anything else.
Okay, but I mean, as Mr. Dutton had as I say, the opportunity, there's only one other comparable property in his view in this county, and he has a good point, and he'll probably get some relief. Seems to me, I'm a retired lawyer, he should get some relief.
Well,
But I don't know how to compare it to others.
That's okay. See, that's what we do. At the end of the day, when we deliberate on each case by case, we'll actually look at neighboring properties, both on your side of the creek and across the creek,
Okay.
to look at if there are disparities in, say, the home site value or the price per square foot value, just to make sure that you're not being valued higher than a neighboring property or somebody with a similar size house, et
Fair enough.
cetera. So we will, even though you may not have bought us that information, we will still look into that for
Okay.
everybody, so.
Okay. Then I have a second area of inquiry. As you said, most of the just land parcels didn't change in assessed value, and I have, I don't know, 12 or 15 of them, and none of them changed. Which I'm not complaining about. They didn't increase, which seems, again, strange to me.
Right.
And I don't know what you're going to do about that as a group, but from the perspective of the county, land values have increased somewhat in the last 5 years.
Right.
And I would find, if I were a county official, fault with the person who decided, or persons who decided not to change any of those, because the county is entitled to some increase in taxes
Right.
on open land, I believe.
Right.
So that's just equally arbitrary and strange in the sort of the reverse direction. The county's getting screwed there, whereas the public seems to me to be getting screwed the other way on existing houses. But I have one property that I subdivided off of a larger piece of agricultural land. These are the two 158U6 and 158Y, which are right next to each other on Antipoison Creek. They're pretty much exactly the same size. One was subdivided a year earlier, and so it was assessed previous to the new assessments. And The other was never assessed previously because it wasn't a separate tax map until last year.
Gotcha.
And as I say, to my mind, and I had Ty Brent do appraisals, and, you know, they were pretty comparable. But the newly divided property, which I say should be of comparable value to the one that was divided the year earlier, is assessed for, you know, almost, at least, almost 2.5 times, which again seems arbitrary and strange to me. But it does suggest that the assessor had to go see that piece of property because it was never assessed before. So he couldn't just say, it's the same as the last time.
Right.
Right.
So I would, from the county's perspective, I have serious questions about the individuals who did this process for you, frankly. It just seems to me that there's a lot of questions here that must reside in large part with the people who did the work. And I just wondered what your response is to that comment, if any. Because you've seen a lot of examples, and this one just seems to be unusual to me because I can understand that they had to assess this new property because it was never assessed before, and they assessed it for $105,000, whereas the one right next door to it, exactly the same size, same amount of waterfront really, was assessed for $40,000. Doesn't make sense to me, and I'm raising a point that's probably could increase the taxes on the lower one for me, but it doesn't make sense.
So what we've done is we've kind of compiled some remarks to take back to the Board of Supervisors
Yeah.
in reference to taxpayers' feeling on the process, some of the appeals with the assessor. We unfortunately don't have any authority to act on behalf of the county with regards to the contract of the assessor.
No.
But I think it's only fair that the board hears from the taxpayers, because if not, they wouldn't know anything unless you all came to the supervisor meeting to voice your concerns. But this is a forum where I think it's only fair that we take back to the board the concerns and the comments so that when they go to do their next general reassessment, they can say, well, we had X, Y, Z comments about this assessment, this process. Maybe we need to look differently next year, or maybe we need to go back to the assessor and say, we want these things answered, because they were concerns that came up from multiple taxpayers.
Yeah, okay.
So-
I mean, that's primarily the reason I came today. I don't, you know, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to be forced to leave my home or anything like that. The tax rate will probably go down, so the tax increase on my house won't be as great, you know. All
Right.
that's okay.
Right.
But I looked at all of my properties when I got the package of things, and I said, this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something amiss with the process, and it's too late to probably do much about the process this go-around. But the next go-around, I think people should give more thought to
Yes, sir.
who's going to do it and how they're going to do it.
Totally
And-
agree.
And I have no reason not to let someone into my house if I'm there who needs to be there to properly assess my property. I
Sure.
don't see that that should be a concern. Maybe it is, maybe there's some legal impediment to allowing that to happen, but certainly wouldn't bother me.
Right,
And I'd
yeah.
feel like everyone was getting a fair shake.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Just,
y'all
I've
have
got,
any
Yes, sir.
the guy who did the assessment did come in and talk with us, and a couple of things I learned. Apparently, there's only 10 people in the state that have the certification that's required to do mass assessments.
Yeah, no, I went and talked to him.
Yeah.
And didn't really get much satisfaction from my discussion with him.
And I feel like
but-
the guy who did it last time, that's what most people, I think from what we've been hearing, maybe the last guy was a bit better just at the communication part of it. But sort of the take-home message, this is my second time doing this, I think David and Jan and Ella, it's y'all's third or fourth time, is that the assessor, when people come in, they just basically say, well, I did my numbers, and, you know, they've got these kind of targets that they have to hit in terms of how sales prices compared to their assessments. And it is kind of an opaque process. You know, they aren't going to each individual property. So I'm not sure when the county did this, you know, if, I don't think they get to choose between the 10. I guess they probably put it out for bid, and then I don't know how many
That makes sense.
people actually bid for the job. I'm sure some of them are. Okay. But if there's only 10 of them doing it, then obviously probably a couple of them are busy in Western Virginia or doing a huge county where they're not interested in doing this. So unfortunately, there's just not a big pool to sort of pull from. But
And
you know,
this-
obviously,
this
home
pro-
values
excuse me.
did go up a lot between the last assessment and this assessment. So how you try to apply that to how many of our parcels there are in the county, I do think it is a hard thing to get just right.
Well, but I think built into the process is they are going to reduce the tax rate somewhat.
Yeah.
But what are they going to do with the tax rate with unimproved land versus houses?
Yeah, the land thing, I
That's-
think, is
That's an
odd.
interesting thing, because if you don't increase the value of the land, can you have a different tax rate for the land than for the house? There's something amiss, and maybe it's that the process can't be improved. Does every county in Virginia have to do it the same way? Pick one of these 10 people to do it? I mean, no, Fairfax
the-
County doesn't do their own, even though they have,
I don't know, if
Million
some
people?
counties have a permanent board of equalization, and I don't know if they're able to have their own in-house assessors or not. Or if-
I think you're bound by the state of Virginia
Yeah,
with the code of taxation, that it's only has to be a certified mass assessor with credentials with them.
I think what he said in some of those places that do it every year, that on a yearly basis, you are allowed to just put like a percentage increase across the board, but that every so often you do have to have somebody come back in and kind of start from scratch and redo it. So I don't know that they have to, and that's just off the top of my head from when Jason was in here. But that's the big thing for us, is that we essentially do it the minimum amount of times required by state law.
right.
Whereas if you do it every year, like bigger jurisdictions do, then your increases and things like that aren't as extreme as they are when you do it every 5 or 6 years.
Okay, well, thank you for listening.
Thank you, buddy, yeah.
Thank you all for serving. I appreciate the fact
Thank
that
you.
you all do this.
We're gonna,
Takes a lot of time, I'm sure.
we're gonna deliberate today after we finish up with the hearings, and then look at each one of these tax parcels for you, and then notify you in mail within 2 to 3 weeks' time on each parcel.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good weekend.
Nice to see you all.
Good to see you, too.
Thank you.
Everybody ready for Ms. Mowenson? Ms. Mowenson? How are you? Come on forward. We've got your tax cards from the 2 parcels, and I'll ask you to come up to the podium here, and
When I have some exhibits out there for you, you want me to go up there and just get into them?
that's fine.
And just deal with one of the parcels at a time.
Yes, ma'am.
So, we'll start this in, I guess. spreadsheet. It shows a percentage of increase.
Okay.
On each one. And that is. I'll put my glasses back on. Just gonna pass them down. Okay, here we are. No, we can do it that way.
You don't want-
Pass them down, otherwise I'll just bring them down.
Which one are we talking about first?
Let's just do my
Let's do
house.
74J.
I
Let's
want to do my home first.
let's start with that one.
Yeah, and I did this and just thought it would be helpful. This is something I was keeping from my own records, and it has other parcels on here, but I have highlighted in yellow what we're dealing with today.
Okay.
And I should have
So
another
here's
one
another one.
in there. Okay, that's in for Neil.
Hey Susan,
How are
how
you
you doing?
today?
Your necklace is cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Urbana Oyster Festival.
Oh, nice.
A girl makes jewelry, and every year I buy my husband's Christmas gift to me.
There you go.
It's a good system.
I just went a couple of years ago. All right, let's see if you can hear me okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You know, I've lived at Flaren Fields, I call it Flaren Fields, the old, original farmhouse there. It was built in the, we're not quite sure, the late 1700s, early 1800s. And it was moved during the War of 1812 because the British were shelling on Dimer Creek. And there is a gunboat sunk on Dimer Creek. And I've had friends and neighbors and guests that have come to tell me about how they used to collect cannonballs. And I know you've heard of Dexter Rumsey. His house that he used to, when he was here, had a cannonball in it. So I'm the old farmhouse in the center there. And I was kind of in shock. Now, if y'all going to drop the rates in half, that's one thing. But I hope I didn't give you my copy. The assessment almost doubled. So I did that spreadsheet. I don't see where my copy is. Just a second
I
here.
have an original, it looks like the original.
Okay, but do you still have a copy for you?
Yeah, we've got an
We've
extra
got plenty
copy.
of copies.
Okay,
Yeah.
but anyway, if I recall, when I did the math and everything, I did it last night, I had attached to that for you what my bill was for last year, 2023, and somehow,
Okay, you want to take this? This is your original. What you're speaking on.
somehow my copies got up there. But anyway,
So your
The bill
land,
almost in-
stayed the same, your improvements about doubled.
it almost doubled. It was
Right.
.90 something when I did the math last
Right.
night. And I checked with my husband to double check on how I was doing the percentage of increase to be sure that it was okay. So it almost doubled. And, I love flowering fields, and I've just been there, but I'm trying to retire. I don't know if I'll ever be able to retire. I sell real estate, and I do practice a little bit of elder law part-time, doing wills and deeds and things like that. But I have an older house, and it still has oil heat. The estimates on the putting in heat pumps that I would love to do have been prohibitive. But older homes with oil heat, as some of you know well, don't sell for as high amount as if I had 2 brand-new heat pumps in the house, or 3. And it's an older home. It requires a lot of maintenance and upkeep. And I don't know where the guys got to just double it. I have a thought, but I'm not sure of that. So the electric is pretty high there. But I spend over $4,000 a year. I know R.P. Waller is wonderful, and he appreciates my business. But we just got another one. And for the winter, it costs a lot to heat the house, to keep the house up. I still have the jealousy louvers in the family room that was an addition in the 50s, which was the thing then. But the estimates I've had, if anybody's had an estimate on getting windows replaced, are just prohibitive. They really are, although I would like to have some new windows. But, you know, at my age, I don't see putting $100,000 to $200,000 in the house for a heat pump and windows that I don't have and getting into another high mortgage. So I just think that those things need to be taken into consideration. I don't know why he jacked the house so much. So,
I mean, the improvement's actually more than doubled, right? From 246 to 517.
Yeah.
600.
you've got, you have my copies
Like
right
that.
there. But they did raise it up quite a bit, and like I say, y'all got my spreadsheets. Thought I had made 5 copies and kept one for me, but I guess not.
Hey, your original's up
I
here,
had
Susan.
one here. This
Oh,
is-
thank you. All right.
That's where I was backing to you to come here. I could tell that was the original tax.
Didn't change. That's what seems weird about it, is that usually when you see that kind of increase, it's because the price per square foot and the factor, but the fact that those didn't change.
Factor
So-
and depreciation didn't change at all.
You know, and if you want to look at my spreadsheet, just as it relates to the factors, I don't know what factor that they were using when they jacked me up so high, but it just makes, I'd love to retire. My Social Security, you know, doesn't even make half my house payment. So I can't retire. And I keep working, and some of you all get to see me out there. So, but I did do a percentage of increase for the properties that we own. I'm not here to necessarily complain about it, but we have a parcel we thought that we were going to build at 114 States Road. And it's a beautiful piece of land there with, I forget how many acres on it. I think it's 6-point-something acres on a point. It's very nice. And it had an old house on it. And it was pre-COVID when I got it. And then COVID hit, building supplies doubled. We had hoped to redo that house. It would have been my husband's dream to move into that house. I thought maybe a second home. I don't think I can ever leave Flowering Fields. But anyway, that percentage of increase was 19.39. And they did it mostly on the land, moved that land from 259 to 309.7. And then the other one is my office building at, in the town of Kilmarnock. And so that shows the difference. They raised the assessment about 50-some thousand dollars there, 49,200, which is a 22% increase. So I'm just comparing what they did on those as opposed to what they did on my home. Is it really a killer? I don't want to have to sell my home because of the taxes. So the other part that we're going to talk about, that I have separate exhibits for you, has to do with a pier parcel. You know, when we bought Flowering Fields, it came with a small, I never saw it look like a jungle over there. And that's just more of a correction, not an error, because the taxes on that are so reasonable. But there's a correction that has to be made. So if you want to just deal with my house first, or do you want me to go into also the other? I feel like my house needs to be reduced. Neil, it just so happens we had a joint sale with a comparable house, you might say, that sold for, what, $359 or something like that. I don't know the exact sale price on it.
Just the two things that we're mainly supposed to kind of look at is equalization. Are similar properties assessed the same way, and
Okay.
market value? Just out of curiosity, what do you think if you were to sell Flowering Fields as a residence? It would,
Well, we would always ask more.
yeah.
What you ask and what you get are two different things. It's what somebody's going to come in and say, well, you don't have any heat pumps, and it needs all new windows, and it's going to take too much to do it. And we had some foundation issues. I paid $11,000 to JES last year to put a steel beam under where the back was sinking some. And and I don't know that it's helped. All it did was put some cracks in the walls where they jacked it somewhat. So I don't know if I were to, what I would ask and what I would get would be two different things.
Yeah.
You know, probably probably ask 410, 415, and maybe hope for 399 or something like that. But I don't know. So it was assessed at 299. It's just the improvements are going to be, I guess, 150,000. And then if somebody wanted to redo it all and put in a new kitchen, and the other home I was talking about was in Northumberland County, but it had heat pump, only one, on the first floor. And it had a brand-new kitchen and everything. And Neil was a selling agent, if it's okay, I don't know if it's okay to say those things, but it's a nearby comparable of a beautiful older home.
Susan, are you still operating the bed and breakfast there?
Sort of. I will not give up the license. I don't want to give up the license. We aren't doing the way we used to. When my former husband was living, he did everything. He loved it. That was his dream, to have a bed and breakfast, and so we did it. But we are still open and operating, and
Okay.
I don't like to have more than, we have some people coming in April, and they will be, I don't do more than one or at the most 2 rooms on a weekend, and that's usually only a couple of times a month.
Okay.
I have grandkids coming now. My family, more important to me to have the grandkids come, which is why we're going to talk about the next parcel in a second, on the
Okay.
Pier parcel. So the grandkids come down, and I keep a couple of rooms for my family. And so I have the first floor room that I can let to somebody if I want to do that. I just need to keep the license active.
Gotcha.
And it's, anyway, it's my assisted living later.
Does anybody have any more questions for Lynn on this parcel? I'm sorry, for Ms. Mowens on this parcel, before we move to the next one? Okay. All right, let's move to the other parcel now.
Well, the other one then, I have just some things to show you, and I'm not sure if this is proper within what you all need to do, or where I need to go with this. I think we've given a copy to Beth, if not, I will. We had a plat redone. This is the plat here, and here's the assessment for last year. I think it was down at the top. Anyway, we were having some problems with the neighbor that I would like to, had I known, I didn't realize when the waterfront lot went up for sale that it was going to come all the way to my fence line. I didn't realize there was never a for sale sign
You
on
can
that
pass it
side
around.
of the road. So I didn't realize they subdivided like that. And so I have also for you, I don't know if it's attached to this.
Same thing you got.
The old plat. How many kids have made a big mistake? And it's on the old plat. And this needs to be corrected. And so whether it gets corrected with you, you all can tell me.
For
Here's the
for
original.
Yeah, for any corrections with the surveys, that needs to be done at the clerk's office.
Okay, well, but you need to know that I only have 1/10 of an acre. And so, the original survey showed .41 in the bottom corner there of an acre. This was a survey including the house when we bought the house around 1980, I think, or something like that. I've been there a long time. So, this is what everybody was going on, and this is what the assessment is based on, and said that it's not that it's assessed so low, it's just incorrect, and the records need to get to be correct. So, and we did add, because of the grandchildren, there was a small parcel, and my son, who is a next appraiser, told me, Mom, you should get that cleared off so you can see it. When I bought it, it was what we call jungle. You couldn't even get through it. And Melvin Grimes did some partial clearing for me years ago, and we put up a pier. And that's the grandchild magnet now. So anyway, I have a boat for when the grandkids come down on the weekends, my daughter and I. And last summer, Dana Stillman put in a boat lift for us. But we don't have electric or water down there because it was too expensive with Dominion. It was ridiculous. So I was hoping our neighbor might let us hook up to his water or something, but.
So the only change on this lot is instead of .41, it is .16 acres.
Right. So
Okay,
I
yeah,
wasn't,
what you need to do, Susan, is just take the original survey.
okay.
That's been signed by Olivia Hall, over to the clerk's office.
That's a
and
new
ask
one.
them to record it.
Oh, it's recorded, but you can hardly see it, the doggone numbers up at the top. You
Oh, I do
can't
see it's
it.
been recorded. All right, so then we'll take this over to Beth. Beth needs to change the
Okay.
tax card to reflect this now.
Okay, that's all, that's all I really needed. And if you want to reduce on that piece of land up on the Cortoman, that went up about 22% or something. I memean, that's up to you all. But the big thing that is a concern to me is my house.
Okay.
And the land also, it's, because it's just taking taxes, it's not an income, a producer.
Gotcha.
And so I don't know who I would give my ideas to for the county. But, and this doesn't really affect you all except indirectly. But I think, I understand that the county really needs money for the new schools, and I'm so glad we're getting new schools and everything that we need to support our people who live here. But I don't know why we're not doing fundraising events like the Boys and Girls Club. Say, one ticket at the event fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club to the Taste of the Bay went for $1,000. And people, it's $100 a plate to go, and people donate, and it's packed. And I would certainly support any fundraiser, and this county, people love to go places. So I don't know who we take that idea to, but I would wish that the county would do something to support schools in an extra way besides a tax increase, because the county needs more money. Just remember that we're dependent upon, and in our real estate business largely, the seniors who come here to retire, and one of the reasons we get them here is because of the lower tax rate. And they save money, and they can live better than they're living in New York and New Jersey. So that's just, it just makes it hard on all the seniors and those that are trying to live on Social Security or modest amounts of retirement money, and they thought they'd get their home paid for, and now they can do it, and if all of a sudden it goes way up, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So do you have any other questions for me, anyone?
I don't believe so. We'll deliberate after today's hearings and then notify you by mail within 2 to 3 weeks' time of our decision.
All right, well, I'm just asking you to please reduce my house so I can continue to stay there, and hopefully if I can ever get some reasonable estimates and make a big sale on one of David's big listings, then maybe I can afford to put in a heat pump or something. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Susan.
Right, moving right along. All right, let me pull the next one here. Susan, don't work Fred too hard this weekend.
Oh, I work every weekend, David.
No, I said, don't work Fred too hard this weekend.
Oh, Fred, thank goodness for my son Fred.
That's right.
So, yeah. He's the boots on the ground now.
Right. Well, y'all have a good weekend, Susan.
Yes, you all have a wonderful weekend too, and I thank you. I hope you found the spreadsheet helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Miss Lou? Hi, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Thank you very much for taking time to listen to what I'm
Absolutely.
going to say. Similar to the lady in front of me, when I received the assessment, it was kind of a shock because I look at it, I compare the 2024 assessment to 2023. Looks like the land value stayed the same, but the house itself, the value increased about 67.8%. So a little bit history on, we bought this house about 2 years ago, and we were hoping that in 4 years, my younger daughter go to college, both of us can permanently relocate here and retire here. That was the plan. It's a beautiful area. We love it. Right now, we only spend holidays and weekends here. This is our second home. We live in Richmond. Both my wife and I work in Richmond. My kids go to school in Richmond. We look at this two ways. One way we look at it, this house itself. The assessment, like I said, looked like the house increased 67.8%, and the total property increased 44.43%. That's our house in Glen Allen, which is Henrico County, increased about less than 20%, about 20%. So we were expecting an increase because, for the past few years, the housing market going crazy, and so we were expecting, but we didn't expect about 45% increase. That was a surprise. And our land, we put a spreadsheet together, and the other thing we look at our neighbors. We don't have history of their property. The only resource we got went to the GIS and look at their current assessed value, and then we went to Zillow as an unofficial reference. And so we put a spreadsheet together, if I can pass.
Absolutely,
Yep.
sure. Now, the more information, the better for us.
I got 3 copies.
That's okay, we can share. We can share. Thank you.
So I put it together. Well, one thing is the information we got on Zillow's, from our experience when we bought our first house, there was no Zillow, but for the past few years, we use Zillow as a reference. So every time we look at Zillow always has a higher value than assessment. I know that's, in Richmond, that's pretty true. That's, Zillow is reflecting the market value. I guess the assessment is sort of a lag behind kind of thing. But in this case, I know Zillow has the value on Zillow right now, the estimate is $100,000 lower than the current assessment of 1.574. So that's one thing I want to point it out. In this come back to this particular spreadsheet, and I sort of circling in red that square foot, the fourth column, which is my neighbor, 4421 Black Stump. That square footage, all the square footage, we lifted from Zillow. So this particular square footage, 3,038 square foot, I believe that's only one house, because on that property, my neighbor had 2 houses. He has a gas house. That's why the dollar per square foot number is high. So that's why I circled it, just as a reference. So when I look at, compared to neighbors, on Zillow square footage, on current assessment, looks like my house is a little bit, not a little bit, but higher than, about 10% higher than the rest of the neighbors. I don't know why. I mean, the house is a little bit bigger, but other than that, it's just a typical house with heat pumps. I know my neighbors and talk to them, and their house about similar setup as mine, as far as I know. So, like I said, we were expecting an increase on the assessment. I just didn't expect such an increase. So I was going to ask the board if you could take another look at it, see what was the reason of the I guess the house about close to 68% increase. Besides the market condition, from our experience, I know we live in Henrico. Henrico, like I said, the market being go haywire for the past 3 or 4 years, their houses have doubled. But in Lancaster, because we love this area, we've been searching for, before we bought it, we searched for a year or so. We didn't see the house market increase that much over the years. So I just ask the board to see if you can reconsider that increase. We certainly will appreciate it. And like I said, our plan, we love the area. This is an area that we're going to retire to, and both my wife and our engineers, and we'd love to work on our property, do little projects here and there, and fix up turn the garage into a workshop for me. And we envision that we see that our kids going to come to visit us in the future, and certainly we enjoy the life here and want to stay here. So that's.
Are you all at Short Pump?
Yeah, we're in Short Pump.
y'all need to get out of the city.
That's the plan. That's why we bought this.
I was born and raised there, and I got out back in 1996. My family's still there.
Yeah.
Lots
Yeah.
growing up. It's a great place. It's just a hustle and bustle, a lot going on
Oh,
out there,
yeah.
so.
I
When we-
can remember when there was nothing in Shore Pump. It was
Yeah.
nothing but
No,
trees
there was an old country store at
Yes.
the corner of Old Three Chop and Broad.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that was it.
And then there was that body shop still where Pouncey Track Road goes out.
Right,
Yeah.
Right,
With the airplane
yeah, yeah,
going through it.
yeah,
That was it.
yeah, there was
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah, we moved to Shore Pump when we graduated from Kansas State University. We were originally from China. We were immigrants, so we came to here, and there was only Walmart, Best Buy, and no mall, and it was all wooded, and
Yeah.
it was single lane at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Wesley was there. Wesley. And so we've been moving, as we family grow, we have kids, we're moving across Westboro, now we're in Shore Pump area.
Nice.
And the plan's always moving out of the city. We love the area here, but, kids go to school, so we had to stay at least for another 4 years for kids to go to
Well, I mean,
college.
it is convenient right there off
Oh, yeah.
95 and 64. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
if, one thing we hear as realtors, when people move down here, they say, where's the nearest mall? And we don't want to go shopping. Go to Shore Pump.
yeah.
Or get on Amazon and let Amazon deliver it to you.
Picks the wrong place then. You're looking for a mall. Yeah, my neighbor, actually, I think we reach out to our neighbor when we moved here, just, try to do neighborly things, and invite them over.
Right.
We had lunch and introduced life here, and my neighbor asked her the questions, do you really want to live here? I said, we're that kind of person, we want this kind of
Yeah.
life. That's why we're trying to move out, yeah.
So we've seen a common thread with every 5 years the county does a reassessment. This time around, as common with yours, land values haven't changed. It's been the improvement change.
Right,
And with depreciation, with factors, your previous assessment, the price per square foot was $81.30. This time, your rate is $175. So it more than doubled.
right.
Have you replaced all your fixtures with gold? I mean,
Yeah.
is there a reason for a doubling? So that's the part that we have to, as a board, go back and say, well, something doesn't look right here.
Yeah,
And it's very helpful that you've done the spreadsheet with your neighbors, because that's what we're gonna do too. We look at the neighboring properties to make sure that with land values and with the price per square foot, there's not these large disparities, because 44%
yep.
increase, that's, you start going,
Yeah,
why?
yeah.
So we understand, and I'm glad you all came before us, because at the end of each day, we'll deliberate on each case-by-case basis, look through very methodically and figure out if there are things that we can do to adjust here for you. And then the Board of Supervisors sets the tax rate. It'll
Understood.
be this May. So very likely that tax rate will be shifting downward, because if everything were to be the same with the current assessed values on these new ones, the effective tax rate's about 46 cents per hundred of assessed value, so
Okay.
that's gonna have to slide down, so.
Yeah. Gotcha,
But do y'all have any more questions?
yeah.
Sure.
No, I've been in your house. It's a neat spot.
Oh, thank you.
So congratulations on.
Was it Tom
on being
Sennett?
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good, great builder, too.
The history of it, Tom, the
Tom
original.
Sennett, yeah.
Sennett, yeah. He told me the history. It was originally a furniture manufacturer, and then unfortunately he passed away before he
Right.
finished, and Tom took it over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love the house. Every chance we get, we drive over here and working in the yard. And actually, after this, we're gonna go there and start seeing the lawn. And so tomorrow we're gonna have
Yeah,
rain.
do
so-
it before the rain comes
That's
tonight.
exactly the plan. That's exactly the plan. So yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming in, and in 2 to 3 weeks' time, you'll get the notification in the mail from us, so.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
have a good
thank you.
weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Stay safe in Richmond.
Take care. No, I think the person who was
House
building the house,
Oh.
and then Tom took it over and finished
Got
it,
it.
I think is what they were saying.
I think he was a realtor, wasn't he a builder too?
Yeah, I thought so, because he had that place down on Windmill.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
The little house?
Well, actually, he had a
He had a
couple
big
down
one,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
He won on the right-hand side next to the old swimming pool, didn't
Yes, yeah.
he? Yeah.
He's a character.
Yeah, I can remember when we were living in Richmond and there was three of us trying to figure out where we were gonna rent. And we were like, we're gonna get a short cut, there's nothing out there.
No.
And so we ended up close to Winter
Really?
which was great, because me and one of my sisters worked at Paramount Broad, so it was, I was getting a job.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was crazy.
Hi, Ms. Thomas. How are you? Would you have any objection to go ahead now and save you a little time? Or our next appointment's not till 11. And you were scheduled for 11:15, so since you're here. Well, why don't you come on forward and we'll go ahead and take care of yours right now. Sure, sure. Let me, I'm gonna pull up here on the screen,
Yes,
Your
I see the
parcel.
plat, that's good.
and, what we're gonna do is, I'll turn things over to you,
Oh, boy.
and you can tell us what you'd like for us to know and consider, and then we
Good.
may have some questions for you. And then at the end of the day today, we'll deliberate on each case by case, and then send you a piece of mail to the Mosby Drive,
420,
Leesburg.
420 Mosby Drive. in
Yes, ma'am, and for
Leesburg,
your
yes.
mailing address?
That's my mailing
Okay,
address.
so yeah,
yes.
so about 2-3 weeks' time, you'll get a piece of mail from us with a decision from
Okay.
today, so.
Great, thank you.
I'll turn it over to you. Welcome.
I thank you. I'm pleased to be here and have a chance to ask some questions perhaps. First, I'd like to find out if you did get the letter that I sent to the appraiser reassessment office. That was dated December 13 of this last year, 23.
We've got the letter, let's see. It
It
was
says-
submitted to the Commission of Revenue?
Yes, I wasn't sure whether that was part of your package.
Yes, ma'am.
Good, so I don't really have to read a lot of that. I did want to say good morning to the chairman and the members of the board, and thank you for having me here, as well as thank our supervisor clerk, because she's followed me closely to make sure I could be here.
Well,
So,
I apologize that we didn't provide her donuts today, because we should have, being a Friday, and
yeah.
next time.
Okay. Well, my husband, if he were alive, would say, that's too much sugar.
RJ said the same thing this morning.
So I will, I won't have to really introduce you to the comparables that I did put at the bottom of that letter. And I will start today with a good morning. I appreciate this opportunity to come before you today to appeal my assessment of $1,090,000 for a 8.6 acre lot with a home. This is quite a jump from a value of $770,900, which was a result of an assessment change from 938 in 2019. My home on Lot 5 is considered to be a 1.5-story home. That is due to the entrance, which is skylight over the foyer of the home. So that portion of the house makes it a half. not totally two-story. It's hard to find comparables like that, and I'm well aware of that. There is a basement that's accessible only by a trap door in the laundry room, which is a closet. I just had the termite inspector go to the basement yesterday, and he warned me that that's the only entrance, and I've never been down there, so I can't tell you much about the basement area. I have to climb down a ladder, and it's not really good for my handicapped status.
Well, hopefully he found no issues down there.
Oh, he did last year. It was a $2,800 expense. So he came back today and everything was fine. Or
That's
yesterday.
good. That's
Everything was
good.
fine. Yeah, and he gave me a quote on insulation because he said that it was probably the original insulation. He encountered a number of cobwebs. So there are some systems located there, especially the 3 heat pumps that I have to keep the house going. And so that's, it's nice that other people will go down there instead of me. There is no garage in this property, nor a swimming pool or lap pool or anything of that sort, other than the front yard where the septic is installed. The 100-foot RPA prohibits any addition or an improvement to the dwelling. The dock has a lift, however, the water level is limited and measured a depth of 3 feet, more or less. So I think this assessment is identifying the importance of water as a view from the house and York Road. And in the 4 homes located there, however, the view from my property is more limited than the other 3 homes. So we do see the pier and bulkhead are improvements on our assessment, but not the water view. That we don't own that part of the property, so that's not something that should be considered as a $1,090,000 assessment. I have an incident when we had our family, when we lived on a hill overlooking town, about 180 degrees of the town, and maybe more. We had an appraiser in to establish our value for a credit line for home improvements then. And he told us when he came to the house and was motioned to the view to look over it, it was told to us that there was no a value on the view. So I would say that would be the case as well here with the water view. We don't own it. We'd enjoy it, but many other people do as well. We also maintain the right-of-way off of York Road to all 4 homes and all common area within the York Haven individual sewage systems, except for mine, which is in the front yard and prohibits any heavy equipment going on over that septic field. It was interesting today when I drove out because there was a blue line down the middle of the road, which we maintain. I don't know who put it there. And I said, well, that's sort of interesting. I'll report that to you. If you find out before you send me a letter, that would be nice because we're required to maintain that road. And the cul-de-sac and the azaleas in the middle, it is a dead end for the 4 homes.
Do you all have a community well?
No, we have good old, what's it called? I just write the
Aqua
check.
Virginia?
Yes, yes, and I did attend the hearing one year, in the church, and it was the most interesting event. They were drilled about the quality of the water, and I think there'll be further studies on water throughout the state in the coming years.
Normally, before anybody does any excavation on a property, if they have Miss Utility come out and mark lines.
Oh, you think that's it? We do have a new,
Normally, the blue marking is a water line.
right?
Propane markings are normally yellow, power is normally red, and then communications are orange.
So they must
so
be adding something on to the
I
neighbor.
would guess that that's probably marking where the water line comes in for y'all's properties. Just a guess.
There's water lines already. There may be a sprinkler system or something. I try to not be nosy.
Right.
So as I say, we maintain that right of way, and it's part of the York Haven restrictive covenants. I do have a fence down the middle of the new owner, and I've read in the covenants that fences aren't allowed. So I don't know. I'm not going to be nosy. I actually, up at my other home in Mosby Drive, there was a new owner that came last month, and he put up a fence too in the front yard. The neighbor came up to him and he said, "It's an unwritten covenant that we don't have any fences in the front." "Oh, well, we have a dog that doesn't get along with the other dog, and we have to put him out there." Now I look out my dining room window and I see a fence. It's most interesting. I've actually thought of getting a water view from here and taking it up there in a canvas and putting it across the fence so I look out at the water. So that road maintenance is part of our ownership responsibility, and the deed covenants and restrictions are recorded among the land records here in Lancaster County, and that would be deed book 247 on page 196, of which I have a copy, and you're more than welcome to look that up, and so you'll be.
I've got a copy of that too, my computer.
Oh, cool.
When we had your neighbor's property, our firm had your neighbor's property
Oh, right.
for sale.
I
So-
wasn't sure who was marketing.
McCann, Payne, and Nina Rogers.
Yes, my husband adored her. He kept wanting me to list our house with her. And we had a good relationship with Sandra Harg, who sold it to us. And all he wanted was something similar to the same view at Tides Inn.
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, well," and when we opened the door to the front, he said, he just stood there blank in the foyer with the skylights behind him and said, "Wow." I said, "Looks like we're serious."
There you go.
So I'll never forget it, and he was quite a character.
And you had it for sale with Sandra a couple of years ago, right? When
I
COVID
did. I wrote
was
that. I
starting,
wrote
and then-
that in the letter to the reassessment office, because we never were able to sell it at the appraised value of $779,000, or 770, I think. I can't remember. Maybe it was 900. So I decided I have to pay taxes, so we leased it to the gentleman who put the the electric under the ridge. So they had a longer stay than we expected. So I
Anybody
see-
haven't made any improvements since it was on the market?
I just replaced the
Before.
shed, which is full of mold, and it had a groundhog under it, so I put down a cement base and tied it down in case of high winds. So I tried to make it better. It was just a new shed from a local vendor.
Gotcha.
So I hope you will certainly consider this appeal with attention to make some necessary adjustments to the value I can only maintain any view without constant care to the massive vegetation and trees that are all of the RPA, 100 feet. We have shrubbery and trees, they're absolutely gorgeous, but then they also hide the view, which isn't part of our property. We are, that expense is also supplemented by the access and walkway to enjoy the use of the pier. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the information you provided, and
Yeah, I appreciate that.
like I said, in 2 to 3 weeks' time, we'll deliberate this afternoon, and then you'll be receiving the decision in 2 to 3 weeks' time in the mail, so.
Great, and thank you for a little bit more of the day.
No problem. Have a great weekend.
I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am. Either way, it's fine. Yes,
You
ma'am.
left your bag, I think. The pocketbook?
Purse over there.
I had my purse here and then my phone was next door because it went off. I came in and I said, you know what, you babysit my phone. I don't know why it rings when I don't want it to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Frizzell?
Yes, sir.
Did I pronounce it correctly?
I'm sorry?
Did I pronounce it correctly?
Frizzell.
Frizzell.
I don't know if you ever heard of old Lefty Frizzell
Oh, sure, yeah.
from the 1940s and 50s.
Absolutely.
Country western singer. We're, I think we're 6 cousins.
Related?
Do you all have a copy of the letter that I sent with the exhibit?
Yep.
I sent a whole package.
Yeah, let me go back real quick. Yes, sir. We sure do.
Okay. Well, I'm really basically just here to answer any questions you might have on this.
Okay.
When I received my first real estate bill in 2021, I came into the tax office. I was kind of surprised that we were assessed at $1.1 million or $1.2 million. I just paid $900,000 for the place the year before that, December before that. And the Mrs. Savoy said, you got to go to the courthouse, basically sue us in order to get your assessment changed. And she explained to me that the appeal would have to be, you have to appeal your $1.1 million against the assessment that was 5 years before that, which, was like, I was like, this is not worth it. I'll wait till the next reassessment comes around. And I was surprised that it came in at where it came in, so I wrote the letter.
Right.
Now, what happened was the lot right next door to me, it's the one up there, it's 118, 33 dash, I think it's 118, just sold.
Right there. This lot here?
33-118, yeah.
Okay, yep, got it right here.
13 acres just sold for $280,000 a couple months ago. I think it closed in November of last year. So I basically used that as my basis to say, that's 13 acres, I have 8 acres. He sold for 280, how am I assessed for 700?
Good point.
And it's on Carter Cove, it's the same kind of water, same kind of view. And then I did find a couple other comparable houses that sold that had similar amount of acreage. I forget how much acreage they each had, but and I just made the adjustments based on that. I gave it a 50-year depreciation, which In real estate investing, you usually depreciate a property over 27 and a half years, but that's
Right.
residential rental property, so it depreciates more quickly. So I gave us the benefit, I gave the county the benefit of depreciating it over a slower period of time.
So the land value's been pretty consistent since 2019, but that improvement value shot up 45%.
You know, real estate appraisers, assessors make no sense to me. The values of real property, improvements on property, the value goes down. It just depreciates.
Right.
Unless you're keeping it up, you know, yearly and putting in new washers and dryers and new heating and air conditioning and new, constantly, it's going to depreciate.
Right.
But it seems that real estate appraisers or assessors seem to want to satisfy the people that are getting,
Paying their bill?
yeah. My house is going up in value, or I don't know. Land value goes up or down, but improvements don't go up in
Right.
value. They get worn out.
Anybody have any questions?
So you purchased it all together, but it's been two separate parcels.
No, it was subdivided and sold as one parcel. I don't know why it turned out that way. I have a deed restriction. I cannot subdivide this property. I have 8 acres, is basically what it is, even though it says I have 5 acres and 3 acres, or whatever it is.
Are there two different tax cards for the properties?
Yeah, I believe there
Yes.
is.
It's 118E and 118B.
You could go to the county and resurvey it and combine the two, and that would save you a lot on taxes probably, because then you'd only have one home site.
But I only have one home site.
on the
That's what I'm saying. I cannot, by deed restriction, I cannot subdivide this property.
So you're not allowed to sell off the other parcel?
Nope.
Can you build on it?
Within whatever the county, so I can't, well, if the county allows you to build a second home on your property, I guess I could.
Might be kind of a Marlin question, but especially if you can't build on it. I just don't know that might be kind of a technical, but you've already talked with the county a bit,
No, I haven't talked to the county. I'm not interested in building on it, but,
right?
and the
Essentially-
septic system for the house is on the other
It's
lot.
on a separate lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's solid clay there. I don't think I could get another septic permit on that property. But that's besides the point.
So we need to look at the separate parcels. It's the question mark either being a home site or just residual land by deed restriction to this other parcel he's got.
Might be, potentially, you might just be able to do like a lot line adjustment and make it all one piece officially. And then, what they have on you've got a $320,000 home site value, because right now the county's viewing it as two different lots. So that home site value would go away if you just combined it into, that's always a question for homeowners with multiple parcels. If you do that, the nice thing about it, I think for most people, is then in the future, if you wanted to sell it or give it to a kid and build a house, then you could do that. But you're gonna pay more taxes by having it separated.
Sure.
Your situation sounds unique and not something, that's why we would talk to the county and kind of see if there is any sort of standard way to handle it. But it could be that getting them combined is into one
Right,
parcel.
yeah, a
as
boundary
way to-
line adjustment would probably,
Yeah.
So it looks like in 2020, there was a boundary line adjustment,
in when?
2020?
I don't know. That was before my time.
All right, so according to the tax card, there was a boundary line adjustment done in 2020, which actually, there's really no notes in here, so we're gonna have to go back and figure out what that was about. What was combined and what was taken apart.
So in 2022, you bought it all for 900,000.
Yes.
Now, just the house parcel is at 1.126. Anything else about what is the water depth like, water view?
The water view is kind of limited. It's across, I'm looking across Carter Cove at,
Just,
what's his name garage, is Pembroke's garage. The water depth is good. It's, I think it's mean low water is probably 3.5 or 4 feet.
okay.
I did have a couple of occasions where I couldn't get the boat off the lift, but they were extreme. And if you look at my Exhibit A, you see that where I've hash marked in the property line with me, and then Luck property, it's now a guy named Miller, I think. There's 3 parcels shown, but one of the parcels is the 2 smallest pieces combined. The house site is, I believe, that's the, it's just kind of funky.
Okay, some interesting things to look into.
Yep. Anybody have any more questions for Mr. Frizell? Well, thanks for all your information.
Okay.
And we're going to spend some time really diving into this thing and pulling our sleeves up and trying to figure out what's there, and if we can make any adjustments, we certainly will. And are you all getting your mail at 208 Shooting Star Lane?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll send you a notice from the county
Okay.
within 2 to 3 weeks' time of our decision. So-
Like I said in my letter, I agree I have to pay taxes. I just want the assessment to be correct.
Yes, sir.
If we
Yes, sir.
don't have enough money at 60 cents, make it 80 cents, whatever it is, but don't play games with the assessments.
Right.
That drives me crazy.
Sure.
Thank you, people.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Radical.
So you want to try to knock one out?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes. What's the easiest one?
They've all started to get a little,
Did we end up finishing Ransom? I can't remember.
Yes.
to do the
Okay.
30%.
Okay.
With Dutton, we're gonna have to pull the tax card from Belle
Yeah.
Isle.
Yep.
With Dutton, I was just trying to, real quick, and last night, I was looking at some sales from 2023, and it seems like CVR isn't updated, like the realist doesn't have the new
Assessments?
assessments on it, so I got kind of frustrated, but, everything is listed higher than the assessed value just about. And there are some properties that sold for $1 million more than the new assessment. It seems like what's throwing people, you know, when he kind of made the decision that land values didn't go up. And I just feel like the way that the mass assessor kind of does this is different than the way that we do it in real estate. You know, and for me, I don't take the land value completely separate and then look at what the house would sell for completely separate and then and that's kind of what I think the factor is. The factor is kind of this third value. You know, he's saying for pretty much any house that's built in a certain time and is a certain square footage is getting a pretty similar price per square foot. And then the land is valued separately, and then to try and make the assessment work, he's got factor and depreciation to kind of work with. I think that's how you do it as an assessor. So once he decided that land values didn't go up, if property values, you know, if home sales were up 50% from 2018, which I think is pretty normal, you know, the stuff that sold in 2018 is selling for 50% and sometimes more higher. If the land didn't go up at all, then he's got the only thing that he has to adjust at that point is the price per square foot on the house. So I mean, how else would he get the property values up? It seems like probably it would have made sense to boost the land values 20% all around.
Well, if you look at it though, if a buyer calls us and goes, well, why are you asking $325 a square foot in this house and $500 on this one? They're not taking into account the value of the land.
Yeah.
But the land value is 78% of the value total. If you got a piece of property looking at Carter's Creek and one way up, you know, Greenville Creek, that's a different, you know, so I think the assessor was not right in valuing everything kind of the same.
No, I think that choosing to basically leave all the land values the same is kind of tilted things. But I mean, I can also kind of understand why. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the land values were really high after the 2018. Remember when we were sitting here looking at, you know, stuff in Irvington at $500,000 and $600,000 for a home site back in 2019. We thought, man, that seems kind of high. Now it seems sort of reasonable.
But have you noticed on some of these cards, the new 2024 assessments, look back on 2008, and there's not a big difference.
No, there's not a big
You know?
difference. Yeah, and some of them are higher, some of them are lower.
Right.
I mean, there's properties out there that, I mean, obviously this is you know, the people whose properties are selling for $1 million more than the assessment, they're not gonna come in and tell us, raise our assessment. So we're only seeing people. But I just, you know, I'm also curious if Marlon has done February, right? Because when we were here before, she had done January, and it was 105% was the ratio. So things weren't, the assessments were a little bit high, but not too high. So I'm curious if she's done February's at this point and how that came in.
I don't know, did you ever go to this property on Shooting Star?
I don't think so. I was trying to figure out which one it was. And
Lawrence had it listed.
oh yeah, yes, I did
I
go
know,
to that
but
property.
inside of it, I
Yeah.
saw it from the outside.
Yep, no, I did show that one. Yep, saying that Lawrence had it. So we need the tax card on Belle Isle.
Yeah.
And do we need Mr. Dutton's old card as well?
Yes, we didn't have the old card on the
Could we
tax.
get, let's see, Mr. Dunn's. Can we get 12-34B, the old and the new card? And can we get the old card on 2165A.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it was the wrong one. He told me 26, 146.
That's all
That's
right.
all right.
I don't even check behind people, but
No, it's all right. I thought it was interesting that Susan's house also said old 1700 and depreciation was 35%.
Yeah.
I would think that a brick house would have less depreciation than a house like Susan's, but maybe not.
I'd love to, I told David I'd love to go in the Burrville. I think that'd be so pretty. Oh, well, one day maybe.
I don't know the house, but that strikes me as the kind of thing that would sell pretty quickly and for a pretty high price
Burrville?
in the current
Yeah.
market.
I would
They're-
imagine,
Now, I know that an old house like that isn't for everybody, but,
yeah.
and I don't know anything about it, and I didn't. I imagine if he's living there full-time, it's probably pretty well maintained and
It's pretty from the outside.
Well, that's great. I just got an email from Marshall. It said, Ryan Homes and its developer partner have requested that their subdivision review be deferred. They requested this deferral after listening to questions and feedback and wanted to reassess the types of housing products and their price points. And they'll come back later,
That's good.
That is good.
maybe. I don't hope. Had a conversation with Bo and Richie and Marshall the other day that no one's too mad. Did not expect it. It's interesting. Fantastic. I don't have to cut baseball practice short on Monday.
I don't have to go sit in front of a soccer game tonight. They gotta cancel that game too.
All right.
All right. Was the rain supposed to come in earlier?
Yeah, we're playing Northampton, so they're 4
Oh.
hours. So they said it's definitely gonna rain. The game's at 5:30 here at Lancaster, so they just said cancel it.
Wow.
That is crazy that Northampton ends up being part of our,
Yep.
I guess I was talking to friend Becky Jones, Kyle Jones's wife, who's the,
Yeah.
I guess her girls' soccer team is going to Northampton to play their game.
Yeah.
And she's not, I think they're going on like a 10-year anniversary trip, and like the day after they get back, she has a soccer game in,
Oh, gosh.
in Northampton. Was it, because she was talking about, she coaches the girls' soccer team, so she was saying that there's just not enough girls' soccer teams around, so that's why they have to play Northampton. So I was kind of, I saw the Northampton thing on the Facebook website. I was kind of surprised that the boys' team would have to go all the way over there to play Northampton.
Oh,
I guess for them, maybe it makes more sense to travel because they really don't have anybody to play.
Right.
Wow.
Did we travel to Northampton? Did they travel there last year, David?
No.
Okay, so maybe that's the difference. And this is the new ones.
All right, so this is,
No, this is the old
so this is
one.
Belle
Okay,
Isle.
this is Burville.
This is Belle Isle. Oh, got it. Okay, so this is the old Belle Isle, 2019. 2024. All right. So, wait a minute. The only thing they did, yeah, like he said,
Factor didn't change.
yeah, just the depreciation went up on Belle Isle to 80%.
What was the depreciation before on Belle Isle?
50,
50?
yep,
Went to 80.
yep. The condition and class were the same as his,
What was the factor?
165. That didn't change.
And then Amon's factor didn't change, right?
Right.
It was 185 before, he's 185 now, and his physical depreciation went from 20 to 35.
20 to 30.
Is that 20 to 30?
Yep.
Right. So I don't know why. It almost makes me wonder if they're looking at Belle Isle any differently because of its usage, but it certainly doesn't say that.
Nobody actually lives there, do they?
No, they rent it out.
Right,
Yeah, it's just,
right.
There's nothing fancy.
yeah, I mean, it's almost just a shell, so you can
Yeah.
have people in there changing, and people can stay there, right?
Oh, yeah, they got
Yeah.
rooms. We had people there for Seafood Festival for a number of years.
Yeah.
We rent that.
Huh.
I mean, is that a good,
Well, to me, 185, I don't know that we've seen one that high.
Jack and Franz for 225?
Yeah, but for a 290-year-old home, I mean, Jack and Franz's is newer and gorgeous views of the sand beach.
Where is,
Verville Farm is at the corner of West Point and Mary Point Road.
oh, okay.
It's right there at the corner.
Is his situated close to the water, or? is
No,
it-
No.
it's right by the corner of the road. It's high up on a
Okay.
bluff, but
I didn't even know he had
I
one.
didn't know he had water either. I thought it was all land.
So did I.
Okay, no, that's a. I heard her asking about the waterfront parcel versus, I mean, it's crazy that one, is that Cross Hills, the one in,
Oh,
Eats
Wacomico Church.
Wacomico Church, you know, that thing was for sale forever, and all of a sudden,
Did you ever go in that one?
we had a contract on it, and
Wow.
people
What was
backed
it
out
like?
because of the, it's very cool, well-maintained. It's crazy, people bought this crazy house in King George that was way more expensive, that wasn't in any better shape. I don't know why they got out of that one.
Huh. We lived right close to that for years and years, but always wondered what that house was like.
See, here's,
Is that the parcel with the house?
yeah.
What was
There,
up
there
there?
is no waterfront.
Okay,
So Belle Isle's got a ton of waterfrontage and gorgeous
Yeah.
views.
and there's no views from there.
No.
Okay, so that piece that he had up, that was the waterfront piece that he owns.
Right.
Yes, but
And
that, he's
that's
not
just-
arguing
It's
that.
separate.
That's just separate. It's
Yeah.
close to there, but
Yeah, I mean, his land's only 38.3, so we obviously didn't have a problem with that, but. The price per square foot is the same on both. Belle Isle and his.
Price per square foot's the same?
Yep. Belle Isle has 5% economic depreciation, and he's got 8%. This is the new one, yeah.
I'd say this also kind of coincides with Susan's. If we kind of make a depreciation change, I think her house is the same
Age.
vintage.
Yeah.
Sort of, except they're all 1700s.
Yeah.
Like, we know that they change that physical depreciation sometimes just sort of based off of, I think, how they feel the home is looking or something
Right,
like that.
Right.
All
So
right,
that might be kind of a
what do you
fair market.
propose on this one?
I'd say we just bump up his depreciation. It seems like that's what he was leaning towards.
To
Well, if,
allows
I would, we could potentially look around at some of the other houses there. I don't think I've seen a 185 factor on a off-water house.
we're not gonna have any others that are 300 years old either that to compare with.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gorgeous grounds. Are there any other historical? Yeah, I can think of a couple in Northumberland, like Cross Hills,
there's some in Marrch.
but I can't think of.
I don't know.
Did you go
I say that there was some
50?
in Marrch, but I don't know where, like with addresses and all that.
This is the Darrows, or your 11:30.
Okay, hello.
How are you?
Fine, how are
Sorry
y'all?
for a little late.
That's okay. You gonna come up to the podium?
Thank you.
Let me, let us get your files in front of us real quick.
Okay.
There's another old one, 1906.
All right, welcome.
Good morning.
We've got your tax card in front of us now, and we're ready to roll, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
All right, sounds good. First and foremost, my name's Michael. This is my wife, Rachel, so we appreciate your all's time. We'll keep it very brief. We purchased the property back in May of last year. We live in Powhatan full-time. Our intent is to live in Lancaster after our children graduate from high school, so that's why we purchased the property. During that time, since then, we first and foremost never received anything by the county in the way of the assessment or the proposed assessment. We did receive our county taxes care of the old owners this past year, back in, I think, October timeframe, November timeframe of last year, but I had inquired with the county, what are we looking at? Are we staying the same, et cetera? They said it'll be in the mail. We never received anything. I reached out to your consultant at the time. He was very nice, said he was going to take a look at it. He had scheduled a meeting with me and my wife for December, 2 weeks prior to Christmas on the Thursday, I believe, if it was correct. And as I told your commissioner, after the holidays, he missed the meeting completely. He was supposed to send us a Zoom invite. We asked to meet with him in person. He said that he was not doing that no longer at that time because he had a deadline he had to finish by the end of December. At that point, it was about a half hour after our Zoom meeting was scheduled at 2:30 that day that we had received an email from him saying is that he didn't hear from us. He was running a little late. He was moving his office, he said, at whatever complex here, and that he had been running behind that week. So just to call him and we could have our meeting by phone. We left him a message as soon as we received that email, like 20, 25 minutes afterwards, never heard back from him. Waited until between Christmas and New Year's, contacted the commissioner's office. She contacted me back after the first year after coming back from vacation in the holidays. She said that she would have him reach out to me to reschedule. It would probably be within the same business day. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, I received an email from him indicating that he was no longer going to meet with us. He had no interest. So at that point, we were pretty concerned. My initial conversation with him was, He had told me back at 1st of December when we had first scheduled it, or at the end of November when we started corresponding with each other by voice and by email. He said, I've come out to your property personally in order to inspect it and to look over it and to come to the number that we're at. I asked him, I said, using the shed, for example, our two-car garage, as you call it, as he referenced to me in the conversation by call, he said, you have about a $38,000 some odd dollar improvement, for example. And I said, it's a 133-year-old cottage shed. It was used for horses and carriages. It still has dirt floors and oyster beds. We put plywood on the bottom so we could move our zero turn and our other items. We use it for, storage of like kayaks, stuff like that. But I said, if you have a $38,000 improvement, I would like to see your findings in order to see that. He said, well, I inspected your property personally. The one thing that I told him which frustrated him was, well, we have cameras on our property. It covers all 360 degrees of the property. I said, if you came onto our property, just like our neighbors that mow or even walk by every single day, I can tell you if you're there. I've seen the cable folks. I've seen the power when they come to read the meter. You've never been there. And then he clammed up on us immediately and stated that he had personally inspected it because he signed off on it. So our neighbors within Marrch since then, I guess, that have met with this board and others prior, including him, he had indicated at that point, he confessed that he didn't come to see anything. He had used online findings like Zillow, et cetera. My concern for that, as my wife and I, is Zillow has been misrepresented for us. It was even misrepresented as a property when we first looked at it. If you look at what's online, shows that we have a dock, we have water access, we have all this. We're landlocked. We're right in the middle of the village.
Yeah.
We have no access. Robert Mills was the developer that actually did that property originally. He has a dock around the corner that he allows us to have access to as a guest, but we have no deed, no ownership, no nothing to it as a result. So I told him, I said, if you're using that in your findings, then we need to sit down and discuss that, because a lot of things, it's just like everybody says, if what you read on the internet is not exactly always what it is. The property dwelling itself, it's only 1,870 square feet. It's not over 2,000 odd square feet. I wish it was, but it's not. And the two individual owners, Christopher and I think he went by Mark, it's still in your property owners because our name hasn't transferred over yet to our trust or to our name. Those two individuals used it as an Airbnb. So they didn't even own the property, but for the whole entire time that they owned it, they told Mr. Mills is that they were going to take the property on and use it personally, but they used it as an Airbnb for the 2.5 years that they owned it. So they averaged rent-wise $55,000 a year on the property. But as a result for us, we have a tremendous amount of repairs and undertaking to take because of the amount of use in repair that needs to be done on it. And that was one of the reasons that we took it on as more of our long-term, forever house project while we still live in Powhatan, that we could take the time in order to do it. So I tried to print pictures, but we forgot we didn't have a printer down here. But I do have pictures if you'd like to see of the shed. So as it relates, may I, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, this is not court, no.
Always have to ask.
No way, shape, or form.
So the only thing that we have done to the house itself, or to the cottage, is there was 2 double doors that were basically custom built. So the door itself, we had to rebuild. We put a garage door on it, so it's easier to get our lawnmower in and out.
Right.
And we replaced the panels, and the door was rotten. So as you can see, this door furthest down. This is what all the doors look like on the property. So obviously plenty of central air, as we would call it. So,
Yeah, natural air, yeah.
yes, but this is the inside of the dwelling. It's dirt floors, wood chips left over from Mr. Mills when they used it for basically a staging ground for when they did the house.
Right.
So
That's in your garage.
that's what they call the garage, but basically it's an old carriage house.
So you got a value of $6,400 on it.
Yes, and
Gotcha.
from what, so since we never received anything by mail, our neighbors had shared with us a website that I guess he had used to provide those findings based on how he did the assessment. I forget what it was. So we went on that, and it showed that he had about a $38,000 improvement between the last assessment to now on it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm not quite sure where that is, but as you can tell, we just put wood over the dirt
Yeah.
and everything, so, but this goes all the way back to the second portion of it, but back in here, it's just all dirt and oyster bed shells, so.
Gotcha.
So we put basically old leftover subfloor just to cover it in
Yeah.
order to make it usable.
Yeah.
But the garage door is so, I can't even park a regular car, much less a garage in it. It's just more functional for the sake of just getting in and out of our lawn equipment, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But there's no power, there's no nothing. The only two lights on the outside that you saw are solar panel. So
Okay.
they light up for 8 hours a night just for security, and that's it, so. But the house itself, we have probably about $38,000 worth of repairs that we have to do over a course of time. Just, that's not counting like wood floors, carpeting, and stuff like that, just due to the fact that it's used as an Airbnb.
Right.
So really, our main concern with him was, what you see online is not actually what you get. So if you look at the Zillow, it shows that we have a dock and has everything. And it was a little bit of a misrepresentation, even our good friend Deborah, which represented the couple, where like, the stock pictures are not exactly like marketable because
Right.
it's kind of not real at the time.
And the eyes are next to us.
Oh, yeah. And then she said yes, what it was stock pictures from when Mr. Mills owned it. They decided to use the same pictures because the house was in better condition than what it was at the time. So us ourselves, just since then, we've done a lot to the outside alone. We put in probably about $12,000 to $14,000 worth of repairs just on the outside of the house. The house obviously is in the historical portion of the village. So the front of the house is still in its historical plaster walls, the original boarding outside. We could modernize it, but we want to keep it to its historical value. But
Right.
we understand that when we purchased it from the individuals, we understood that there was a benefit from a tax standpoint of leaving it in a historical condition versus making it more modern or tearing it down. And so we want to salvage history, not just tear it down.
Yeah.
And that comes to our last point. The house next to us, it's about $135,000. It's 2021.
Okay.
That gentleman's been the thorn of our existence since we've been there. His name is Dutch. He's a realtor, but he's put it in a trust, but he purchased it from his clients.
It's 1121,
Yes, 1121. It's
right across the street.
yes, that's the correct.
31?
No, the 1121, right the other way. You see the red
Another one
line?
right here.
That's
Yep,
correct.
That's it.
And then there's a lot just shy of 1116A that used to be a part of that. It's the dock. The gentleman has actually subdivided it. I think he's come to the county a number of times. It's 1116 and 1121.
It's
It's
up
11.
right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that gentleman's divided that property. That property has been, when we moved, before we even purchased our property, we asked the county what the status of it was. They were very nice. They said we were providing him a demo permit to tear it down. I asked them why they hadn't condemned it, because it's been vacant for almost 20 years. They said is that, we just don't condemn things. We have so many properties in the county that if we do that one, where does it stop?
Yeah.
So they were going to issue him a demo permit. The house is dilapidated, it's falling down, it's in disrepair. I've been through it with our realtor because it's been for sale, so we use the access to kind of see it. We've looked at buying it, but the problem is that Saltwater Drive is a private easement to the gentleman that lives at the very end of the point behind us. So it divides our property, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But he's selling it for $135,000, and basically, no one, every time someone from the county comes in and does either the water or the waste aspect, everybody walks away from it. But that house has depreciated the value of a lot of houses around it. We asked him, why don't you just donate it to the museum? We've looked at actually just buying it and donating it, but at the same point, with the new FEMA map,
Yeah.
it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a 10 out of 10. So taxes, insurance, flood insurance, even if we bought it outright with cash, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
So, but that's been a kind of a bane of our existence for a lot of people in the village, is just that house and a few others down at the point. They either have, they have fines, conditions that they can't build on, but, you know, we feel is that, as we told your assessor, you have to take that into account as well. So, I mean, if you want to tear it down, if the county wants to buy it, you know, whatever, if come together as a village in the county in order to make it better for everybody as a whole and give it back to nature, so be it. But, I mean, you can't really build on it, you can't do anything, but it's the bane of our existence next door. But he tells us that house is worth X amount of dollars as well, and it's really not. So it's probably worth more in salvaged lumber than it is
Yeah.
anything that you can get out of it.
When did you purchase your home?
In May of this past year.
In May of '23?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And was that, did you do, was there an appraisal or anything done on it at that time?
So the gentleman wanted 400 for it. We gave him 380 cash. We went to our bank originally, and it wouldn't appraise. They said, no way, not for that price. And so they looked at the assessment records. I think it was around 270 and some change, 280 I think is what it was for the longest time. And maybe I'm wrong, I don't have it printed right in the front of me. Whatever the last tax assessment was for the last about 5 to 7 years, kind of held same. I contacted the county at the time when we purchased it, and they said that at that time, I think you all weren't in a position to look at like future assessments at the time, or maybe wasn't in that point. But they told us is that it would probably stay the same because nothing major has happened to your house. You haven't added, changed, done anything. You haven't purchased any additional land to attach it to or anything like that.
Right.
So we felt comfortable. We were like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense, you know, considering that, you know, land is only going to go up. We're fine with paying the tax on a land because land can't be created not unless, you know, you want to add it to the water. But for the house itself, it's a depreciated asset. So even though that Mr. Mills did a really good job on it back in the day, it's seen its fair share of wear and tear as a result.
Anybody have any questions? Well, I appreciate you guys showing us the pictures. That's very helpful.
And again, we're happy, we didn't want to inundate you with enough, like, we know you've got like 1 million people probably to visit inside the county in a very short window or a period of time, especially in the 10 or 15 minutes. But if there's anything that we can provide you of value for your assessment or for your understanding of the property better, if you'd like to come out and visit it or anything, we're happy to have you. And like we said, you know, obviously you've probably seen the real estate sites and everything else as your due diligence prior to the meeting. So, but we don't own any water property. We're smack dab in the middle of the village.
Well, we will, I think our last hearing today is at 2, so we'll go back case by case, dive into the information, look at neighboring properties, and then render our decision and mail you guys in 2 to 3 weeks' time. So.
Okay. The only other question we had is, where will you mail that to? Because since we haven't received anything else, we want to make sure that you have what's on record correct.
So we need to make sure, I tell you what, could we,
Can we give you the address and you,
if we can give you the current address and everything, if y'all can give that to Crystal, we'll make sure that
Sure.
the Commissioner of Revenue gets it.
Okay.
I think the files, normally, when you close on a piece of property, whoever does your closing, whether it be a title company or attorney, normally they would send a welcome letter to the Commissioner of Revenue introducing you all as new owners.
Right.
And you all would get all the new correspondence, so.
Well, we felt comfortable because the fact is we received the tax assessment for the end of for that fiscal year last year, but we haven't received anything since. So
Yeah, and
somewhere
see,
along the line.
It's still showing up on here, on our current tax card, is Kenneth Mark Wilkinson and Christopher Brooks.
Right.
So
They
that's
told
still,
us.
it needs to be
The previous
updated.
owners, yeah.
Yeah, I inquired on that the other week because we were trying to move the house to our trust. And they told us it takes about a year to record the new deed in its current form. So they
Who
said.
told you that?
The commissioner, or not the commissioner.
clerk's
but
office?
One of the clerk's office, yes.
Really? But to change the property from your own personal name to the trust?
That's a $27 fee and a paper drop-off.
That's it?
But they said is if we can get it into them, which our attorney's doing currently right now, just going ahead and doing the documents needed. They said we'll probably be able to record that faster than last year's. We'll just supersede it with your trust, so.
Yeah, I took mine in, and then 5 minutes later, after I gave them the check, I walked out and they had recorded it.
Yeah, not that fast.
And we put it from our personal name to our trust.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I think let's get Crystal to update the information, and then we'll go ahead and get it to Commissioner of Revenue to make sure that's correct.
Okay, thank you for your.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Bert. That's fine, yeah. That way we got the microphone and everything on
Okay.
for you, buddy.
Awesome. I didn't know if,
Let us,
yeah,
let us
take your
pull our
time. Take your time. I'm up here all
files
day.
back up. How things going with you, Bert?
As good as they can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's your brother doing?
That's a good question. You've probably seen him more than I have.
Actually, I haven't. I haven't
Really?
seen him around much, no.
Really? I was disappointed. I will say that I have something special for you. I was sad to see when I came up, I don't know, a couple months ago, see my boyhood home is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I drove up and I literally slammed on the brakes in front of the,
Yeah.
in front of the,
We
other
looked
building
at,
there.
we looked hard at, we've got people in there to try to salvage and renovate it.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we started tearing off the walls, it was like paper. It was like, oh, man. But we did have a lot of people come in and salvage the banister, doors, knobs, most everything
yeah, yeah.
inside. We had just said, okay, anybody wants it, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, I drove by.
price is pretty high right now for buildings, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. We're gonna get into that here in a minute.
Welcome, buddy. I'll turn it over to you, Bert, and then,
Well, you know, so I brought you some of these, I'm gonna hand out. I don't know
Yeah.
how helpful it'll be, but at least you have the notes already taken on what I had to say there front and back. I only got 3, I didn't know how many. you were
That's
gonna
fine.
do.
that's fine, we can share.
So the front there is how to get in touch with me at all times. It's the lively storage stuff, but at least, you know I'll answer. The first thing I wanted to ask you guys, did the county provide any sort of averages on like what the increase rates were and assessment rates? Did that ever come out?
Do we have that in the package from Jason?
And the only reason I ask that is because I have no reference of what is acceptable or what is
All
not.
right, I tell you
acceptable.
what, we'll get Crystal to email you the package from the assessor, which gave his methodology and everything.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask is, I think the gentleman that was in here before me, I think he pretty much summed up my experience in terms of not having to come see you guys. And that was, hey, I received this. I think there's something wrong. The phone number that was published on these never answered. The voicemail was full. Could never get the guy on the phone. I emailed, and I can provide logs of this, but I think it's really, I understand it's a hard job to do, but at the same time, you publish a phone number and email, and you say, hey, contact us to see if we can't rectify this, and no response. I just don't have patience for that.
Yeah.
Now, it puts you guys in a good light. You get something to do.
That's right.
So the first one, the reason I asked what, the averages were or any of that kind of information was because I didn't have any reference. And so I went to Zillow. Obviously, everybody does that, but they have a research, and you guys know this based off your professions. But they have a research arm that publishes information. So this, kind of the second, there's a graph of increases for Lancaster County based off of 2-bedroom home valuations. These are the 33rd to 67th percentile of sales in the county. And this is the last 20 years. And, you know, in the last 3 years, 1.3794% is the increase on valuations. So what I'm saying is we can make numbers up from anything, right? I just hope that we're doing it in a way, because obviously these are low numbers. These are really low numbers, right? Let's increase it by a factor of 10, so 13%, right? I mean, even at 13%, that would be, you know, swallowable. I think some of these rates, as you'll see as we go to page 4 for my property down in Whitestone, waterfront property. I've done no improvements since we bought it, and I came in here and saw you guys. I saw you before. I don't know who else may have been on, but I that's not true. I put new screen on the porch, and I replaced the 25-gallon water heater of a 1,000 square foot property. But how do you get?
Well, that's 100,000 improvements right there.
Yeah.
When they gold plated screen, nickel plated screen.
Yeah, exactly. So to get to 93% increase on the building improvements, I just feel like there's just not really consistency here in where we're going. The tax rate was up by 25%.
Hey, Bert, which, just real quick, which one are we talking about here?
On page 4 of what I handed you.
Okay,
Those are printed front to back. It's the.
34211B, gotcha.
Yep, 34211B.
All right,
Yep.
that way we can we can pull the tax cards up here and make sure we got the same.
Yep.
'Cause we got field data notes and stuff to.
And so.
Okay, gotcha.
So, you know, obviously, I think that's out of line. I don't know what answer to give you of what is acceptable, but I think that's out of line. And then I provided the report summary on page 5, or page 5.
Yep.
You can't really read it, of what the inspection was when we bought it. And the only thing that's changed there is the water heater has been replaced. But all the other things are still a problem, mostly because during COVID, I couldn't get a contractor. And then now, I can't afford it to fix some of this stuff at the new rates, 7-8%. So, it's still in the same position as it was before. So I think a 90% increase on the improvements is a bit much. And I don't know what else, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, that's just how, that's how some simple people from here, that's how we deal.
We've seen across the board, pretty much land hasn't changed. It's all been that improvement value changing.
Yeah.
And
I get it. It's a nice piece of property. And it would be great if someone came in and put a whole new house on it.
right.
I mean, there's the potential value.
Right.
But that's not the truth. That's
not what's there right now.
That's not what's there right now. And I've been talking with a few contractors, and there's no less than $225,000 worth of improvements that have to be done. It needs a new roof. It needs a little bit of. We're gonna have to remove the chimney because it's pulling the house.
Separating.
Yep. And then because it's built on sand.
Yeah.
And all the windows and doors, they had window units in them, so they're all rotted. So I got to replace all them. All new siding. It's just not cheap, right? So I gave you something to go off of so that you have notes, so that you don't have to. The report summary from the inspection when we purchased it. All those things are still true today. I also provided the comparables that came from the HUD one at the time. I didn't know whether I haven't done real estate stuff in so long. I don't know anymore, right? Those are the addresses that were provided there, so I gave them to you as a starting point, right? Mm-hmm. So hopefully that helps, in any case. Any questions about this property?
Yes. Has anything been done to the shoreline?
No.
Because you're on a cliff.
I'm on the cliff.
Do y'all have access down to the bottom?
No dock, no nothing.
So y'all know where this is, right?
Yep.
This is High Bank right here.
Yep.
Here's the bridge coming across from Middlesex to Lancaster. There's High Bank, those homes, but this is the property. And if you cross the bridge, you'll notice over here, there's significant erosion.
Yep,
And this house burnt right in here, I guess?
yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. 2-story, 2-bath, 1,000 square feet. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep. Does anybody have any questions on this one before we go to the next one? And it's gonna be looking at factor depreciation again and looking at that, improvement value.
yeah, and so when I spend $250,000 to fix it, you know, I'd love to, you know, pay the county what it, you know, what it's worth, you know?
Right.
But, because, you know, I know the county needs, you know, it needs improvements and stuff. I'm all in support of that. I don't appreciate.
Want to be fair and equitable.
I want to be fair.
Yep.
I also would like to have the chance, which I'm getting now, but unfortunately, I couldn't get through to the consultant.
Right. All right.
Next property, page 7, 35219. This is my mother's house, my mother's old house.
All right, 35,219. 35,219.
Windmill Point Road.
Yep.
I mean, just same issue. I mean, the tax rate up 83% for what? Zero improvements. The home was built in its old Sears Roebuck home. It needs a new roof. You know, these even more can't see just because there's been zero improvement. We haven't put anything into it. You know, I don't know, again, what else to say. I
Yeah,
you know, I
it's
did
the
this.
same thing where the land didn't change, but
Yeah, actually, which is even more concerning, because the lot, and it's not drawn there now because it has been merged, but the lot next door had been purchased by my brother, foreclosed on. The bank donated it to Habitat for Humanity. Habitat realized they couldn't do anything with it because the septic is on that property, and contacted me to ask me if we wanted to do anything with it, and I'd said, you know, sure, I'll buy it. And so I bought that extra sliver and added it to the property. So therefore, what is interesting is that there's no increase, zero increase for the land. However, additional acreage was added to the property. Doesn't make.
You added more land to it.
Yeah.
The land value didn't change.
Yeah, like,
Okay.
it just, the math doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I understand it's a difficult job to do, but these things are kind of glaring. And I would hope that maybe the county take a new look widespread,
Right.
based off of some of these very clear evidentiary findings of mistakes. I also did the same thing for Zillow for 4 bedrooms and for single-family homes. Again, omitting the last, or the bottom third and the top third. It's just how the data comes. You know, 2021 was the highest increase. I guess that's right when the COVID, you know, peak happens. It's showing 1.2, about 1.2% that year. Let's just increase it by a factor of 10, 12%, you know. Those are chewable amounts,
Right.
right? This property went 67% increase in valuation on the improvements, 0 on the land. And then the what's interesting to me is how is the tax rate so out of sync with the valuation increases, right? Seems like something's not right there.
The tax rate?
Yeah, so if you do the math on the tax rate, the increase in taxes is 83.64%.
So the Board of Supervisors, they're meeting now to come out in May with a new tax rate? But what's going to happen is the effective tax rate based on the last 2019 assessments and these new values, it's 46 cents per 100.
Okay,
And we're at 63 now, so very likely they're going to have to reduce that rate
yeah,
by a good percentage to make sure we're not way over the
Yeah.
the Department of Taxation requirement for increasing the overall tax rates.
yeah. In any case, 83%'s,
A little high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can all do it, let's do it, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so I gave the 3 properties for the comparables, just to try and help you guys out.
Thank
This
you,
is
yeah.
what was given for, we did an appraisal in 2017, 18 timeframe. So who knows? I don't know. I didn't, really look up those properties to see, because some of them are in North Armorland. It's not apples to oranges for assessments, right? They do theirs next year, I think. Any case, any questions about that property? It's, the other thing is it's vacant right now. It's just, it doesn't have.
Yep. Yep. Everybody good on that property? Okay.
All right. All right, the next one, page 11. This is a commercial piece. This is where Lively Storage sits, 14 Alpha 413. And I really don't have anything to say about this except what is going on.
Well, your land and your improvements went up.
So my land went up 166.56%. My improvements went up 88% for a total of 105% increase. And then the tax increase was 105%.
Yeah, he's gone, and we've seen this on several, pretty much to a $40,000 an acre price kind of throughout the county for all commercial property. And we've, which is a lot higher than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other ones that we've seen, this one seems a little bit different. I don't know if it's going to be looking at other storage areas, but on the other ones, on the old tax card, there is some sort of change in how the property was designated that we were able to kind of look at. This one seems a little bit different in that it was all considered commercial previously, and now it's all considered commercial. But it does seem odd to me that, we've seen $40,000 an acre for commercial property in Whitestone. We've seen it in Kilmarnock. Now we're seeing it out in Lively, which seems like to not have any differential based on geography seems
Right.
Yeah.
incorrect.
Yep.
So I have purchase plans and have plans to expand the business. And so I don't know if some of that had leaked in or what, but nothing has happened. I did put a generator on the property since the last assessment, I think. And I repaired the roof on the small building that's out front. There's a little small white building that's, I think, 40 square feet.
The little office building right there in front?
Office building.
Yeah. Now, they got the generator and they got the, yeah.
The rate for the warehouse, they more than doubled. No, they did double. Well, they actually more than doubled.
192?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the warehouse is 20 years old. It's 21 years old. It doesn't,
Yeah.
So I guess that would also be looking at other storage sites
Yeah.
to see how their buildings and depreciation. It's interesting that they just, it's another one where it's just completely different between the two tax cards, right? Okay, no, here it is, warehouse mini, 100 by 60. The old rate was 18. the new rate is 40.
The old rate was 18,
Yeah,
and the new was 40.
and that's a hand note that is on
Right.
Yeah.
the card. It'd be interesting to know, did he take that from somewhere? I would imagine.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think my mother has had a storage unit out there
Yeah.
for about 30 years.
She's-
You're gonna have to raise her
yeah, yeah.
rate. Don't tell her I told you
she's
that.
she's one of my original customers. Yeah, oh yeah, and she has a great deal.
She has a
you
very
know.
good deal.
She has a really good deal. She and I talk probably every 6 months about how good a deal it is. Yeah, so, you know, I'm from here, and I get it. Fixed income community, you know, if I were to treat everybody the way that they do up the road, you know, it just wouldn't work, right? So I try to let people, if they're long-term, and I don't raise their rate, you know, every year.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
From here, you know, because I certainly could get a whole lot more, but I don't do that. And word spreads.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Your comments and frustrations about the assessor will be taken back to the board of supervisors. And we've heard that from a lot of people.
yeah, so here's the thing, if we're gonna pay as a county, if my taxes are paying for a service like that, and then I can't reach out, and I have to come to you and tell you, hey, look, I called numerous times on a phone number that had no voicemail availability. I get it, I don't answer the Lively Storage phone number all the time, I make people leave a message. And most of the reason is, the calls that come in 90% of the time are spam and fake and trying to sell me something, right? So I don't need the time for that.
Right.
But at least I return the call, right? And then when an email's published and you send something to say, hey, let's talk about this, and
Sure, yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
You know, that's just,
They're going to get a lot of comments about that, because we're hearing the comments, and it's only right for us to pass them along to
yeah,
the board.
yeah.
You all have any more questions for Bert on these three properties?
Yeah, one last question. In
Yeah.
terms of the 2.153 acres,
Yeah.
just thinking about the site and the buildings, is pretty much the entire 2.153 acres gravel and buildings, or is some portion of that? I know you're talking about expanding.
Yeah, so
potentially
no,
some-
there's an equal enough amount of room. Gosh, there's no other way to say that we don't have orientation.
Let's see.
It's only half covered.
So you're
for
using about
storage.
half of the land right now for,
About half of the land for
Physical
actual
address,
storage building. The other lot was supposed to be developed. You know, David knows my father was less than great with money, so it didn't get developed. However, that's where the next planned units are gonna go, because there is enough space there. So it's about half.
from
So there you
a,
go. So there you go.
from a fair market value standpoint, do you think that 304,000 is more than you could sell the land and the units for, or kind of the two things we're supposed to look at are equality, how do other similar properties stack up, or fair market value?
You know, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what, because you're also selling a business.
Yeah,
How do you-
that's the hard
yeah,
part. The
that's
business
hard. Do
shouldn't
you-
have anything
how do
to
you
do with it.
Separate
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Yeah, because this really is just the property
It's
itself.
just the property and the
then
structure, the business
structure.
part,
Yeah.
Right.
which isn't supposed to come into it, yeah.
Because,
Because that, yeah, that's hard, especially with the storage unit thing.
'Cause
So
if I-
obviously,
because
the storage unit,
rental
you're selling
income,
the business.
Yeah.
yeah,
With it, some other properties, the business could be sort of separate, so it's easier to, obviously, to think about it. So that's a hard one to answer.
you know, that's why we're here, right? Because
Yeah.
I have to ask you guys, hey, what is fair?
Right.
You know, looking at that. You know the county a whole lot better than I do, at least I would hope. That's why you're put in this position.
Yeah.
Yeah, just 105% increase is steep.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to me to run the numbers on the whole gamut, right? Not just the averages, not just the means, but like, how many properties ended up at greater than 75%? How many properties ended up at greater than 100%? That might be problematic. You might not want to do that.
Right.
But as a citizen, I would hope somebody's doing that.
Yeah. Any more questions for Bert? Bert, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're gonna, after the 2 o'clock last hearing, we're gonna go back through case by case,
Okay.
parcel by parcel, and dive in, and then make a decision on each parcel, and then mail it to you at the P.O. Box 725 Waystone?
You know, I put that on there, says one, because I think my 70 Ray Davis has got my North Carolina address on it, but
Where do you want us to mail it to?
just do the 725.
Okay.
Yeah, because all the, you know, most of them are going there,
Gotcha, buddy.
so, because some of them are in the trust, some of them are not, you know. We're going to fix all that. So, all right, thank you very much.
Bert, thanks, buddy. Good seeing you.
Go get some good lunch.
If you see or hear your brother, tell him I said hi, and if I see him before you, I'll tell him the same.
Yeah, I haven't seen him since he got married. He got married?
No, didn't know that. But I know we've got something I think there's something Randolph-Macon for soccer, some anniversary thing coming up. I don't know if he's going or not, but I'll try to reach out to him and find out. Where is he living? Richmond? Do they? I'll have to find out.
And I think it's in the old Newkent, not
Okay.
New Kent.
New Kent.
A lot of New Kent going on right now.
But you know what I mean when I say it.
Next, we gonna take a break or lunch or what?
Yes, ma'am.
Think so. Thank you, Bert. Have a good weekend, bud.
Thank you.
See you.
Yeah, let's, if lunch is ready, let's go ahead and do lunch.
You hungry?
My dog is.
Your dog is hungry.
We gotta get, we're getting corner food today. We need to get eaten and then make sure we got 30-minute nap time.
let him
before we have to
Let him out.
Come today. I was good the first.